Hello and welcome back to the Sleepy Rider channel. I hope the Yamaha video gave you the sleep you needed. Tonight we move to the green side of the paddock. The Kawasaki Ninja H2R produces 310 horsepower. From a production motorcycle. Not a racing prototype, not a one-off concept shown at a motor show, but a machine that a private individual can purchase, take to a circuit, and ride. The supercharger that produces this power sits between the cylinder banks of a 998cc inline-4 engine and spins at speeds exceeding 100,000 RPM. At those speeds, the impeller blades are moving at a velocity where the tip speed approaches the speed of sound in air. The engineering required to keep a mechanical component intact under those conditions is not trivial. And the fact that Kawasaki produced it in a machine they sell to the public is the single best summary of what this company is and what it values. Now, settle in. Let yourself go quiet. The Kawasaki story is long and the night is generous, and we have time for all of it. Kawasaki Heavy Industries, the parent company of Kawasaki Motors, is not primarily a motorcycle manufacturer. It is one of Japan's largest heavy industrial conglomerates, building ships, submarines, commercial aircraft, railway trains, industrial robots, gas turbines, and bridges alongside the motorcycles that carry its name in consumer markets. The scale of the industrial organization that stands behind Kawasaki's motorcycles is genuinely difficult to comprehend. A company whose shipbuilding division has constructed vessels displacing hundreds of thousands of tons, whose aerospace division builds components for the Boeing 777, whose rolling stock division produces Shinkansen bullet train cars. The motorcycle division of Kawasaki Heavy Industries is a small part of this larger enterprise in financial terms, but it inherits from the parent company an engineering culture, a manufacturing infrastructure, and an approach to materials science and precision production that has no direct equivalent among manufacturers whose entire corporate existence is defined by the motorcycle. When Kawasaki builds a motorcycle engine, it builds it in the context of an organization that also builds jet aircraft engines, and the engineering standards of those adjacent activities inform what Kawasaki considers acceptable in a motorcycle in ways that are not visible in any specification sheet. The Kawasaki W1, introduced in 1965, was the company's first serious attempt at the large displacement motorcycle market and was based closely on the BSA A7 parallel twin, reflecting the widespread practice of the era in which Japanese manufacturers studied and in some cases borrowed directly from the British motorcycle engineering tradition that had dominated the global market in the 1950s. The W1 was well built and reliable by the standards of Japanese manufacturing at the time, but it arrived at a moment when the British manufacturers whose designs it drew from were already in commercial difficulty, and the Japanese-made version of the parallel twin formula did not achieve significant market success in the export markets Kawasaki was targeting. What the W1 development provided, however, was the manufacturing experience and engineering discipline that prepared Kawasaki's engineering teams for the far more ambitious product that would follow it. The W1 was the education. The 900 Super 4 would be the examination. The education was rigorous enough that the examination was passed, with a result that changed the industry. The Kawasaki 900 Super 4, introduced in 1969 as the Z1 in most markets, is the machine that defined Kawasaki's global identity and established the pattern of high performance, large displacement motorcycles that has characterized the brand ever since. The Z1 used a 903cc double overhead cam inline-4 engine producing 82 horsepower, which made it the most powerful production motorcycle in the world at the time of its introduction. Honda's CB750, introduced in the same year, had established the four-cylinder format as the future of large displacement motorcycles. But the Z1 surpassed it in displacement, in power output, and in the sophistication of its engine design. With twin overhead cams rather than the CB750's single cam providing better breathing at high revs. The Z1 was faster than the CB750, better specified than the CB750, and priced competitively with the CB750, which is not a combination that leaves much market space for the competing product. The Z1 established Kawasaki as a manufacturer whose primary identity was defined by offering more performance than anyone else at any given price. And this identity has been remarkably consistent across more than 50 years of subsequent development. The story of how Kawasaki nearly didn't build the Z1 is more interesting than the story of how it did. In the late 1960s, Kawasaki was developing a 750cc four-cylinder machine that would have been a direct response to Honda's CB750. When Kawasaki's engineers saw the CB750 unveiled at the Tokyo Motor Show in 1968, they recognized that a 750cc machine would be directly compared to Honda's new product and would likely be found wanting. The decision was made to abandon the 750 project and develop instead a 900cc machine that would position itself above the CB750 rather than alongside it. This decision, which required abandoning significant development work and extending the timeline to a 1973 introduction, was the right one. The Z1 that resulted was not competing with the CB750. It was occupying the space above it, which was exactly where Kawasaki needed to be to establish the performance identity the brand has maintained ever since. The willingness to abandon completed development work in favor of a more ambitious alternative is a specific form of engineering courage that requires both a clear competitive vision and a willingness to accept the cost of acting on it. The Kawasaki KZ1000, successor to the Z1, became the motorcycle of American police departments through the late 1970s and into the 1980s, in a way that shaped both the brand's public visibility and the popular culture of the era in ways that extended well beyond its commercial significance. The television series Chi-Ps, which ran from 1977 to 1983 and which followed two California Highway Patrol motorcycle officers, featured KZ1000s as the police motorcycles ridden by its protagonists and was watched by millions of American viewers at its peak. The visibility of the Kawasaki name and the specific visual character of the KZ1000 in the weekly viewing of tens of millions of households provided a form of brand recognition that advertising budgets could not have replicated at equivalent cost. Kawasaki did not create the KIPS association deliberately. It was the consequence of California Highway Patrol choosing Kawasaki motorcycles for their officers, which a television production then used as a realistic detail of their police drama. The outcome was one of the most effective pieces of inadvertent product placement in the history of American television. The green color that is now universally associated with Kawasaki motorcycles has its origin in a specific and somewhat arbitrary moment in the company's early racing history. In the 1960s, when Kawasaki was beginning to participate in international motorcycle racing, the company needed a distinctive color for its race machines. The color chosen, a specific shade of lime green that Kawasaki's designers believed would be highly visible in photographic coverage of racing events, became the company's competitive color and subsequently its commercial identity. Whether the choice was a stroke of branding genius or simply a practical decision that happened to produce a distinctive and memorable outcome is not entirely clear from the historical record. What is clear is that the specific lime green, which has become one of the most immediately recognized color identities in the motorcycle industry globally, has been managed with sufficient consistency that it is now as fundamental to the brand's identity as the H emblem is to Honda, or the bar and shield is to Harley-Davidson. The color carries meaning that was accumulated through racing success and through decades of commercial presence, and that meaning is now inseparable from the color itself. Kawasaki's engineering culture, as described by engineers who have worked within it, places an unusual emphasis on the physical testing of components under conditions that exceed what normal use would require. This over-testing philosophy, which goes beyond the industry standard of testing to the specified operating limits and instead tests to significantly beyond those limits to understand the failure modes and failure margins, produces motorcycles whose mechanical components are designed with safety margins that reflect the demands of the most extreme reasonable use rather than of average use. The engineering consequence of this approach is that Kawasaki's production machines tend to respond well to modifications that increase power output and stress, because the baseline components were designed with a margin that accommodates the additional demand. This is one of the reasons that Kawasaki's engine platforms have been popular with tuners and modifiers across the decades. The machines can absorb more stress than their stock configuration produces, which is the direct consequence of being engineered to margins that exceed what stock configuration demands. Subscribe to the Sleepy Rider channel. These long, unhurried rides through the history of machines you love are here every time you need them. Subscribe now and keep the channel close. The Kawasaki Ninja, which arrived in the American market in 1984 as the GPZ 900R and introduced the name that would become the company's most commercially durable model line, created the modern superbike category in a single product introduction. Before the Ninja GPZ 900R, the fastest production motorcycles available were machines whose speed was a consequence of large displacement and raw power. The GPZ 900R was fast in a different way. It used a 908cc liquid-cooled inline-4 engine producing 115 horsepower in the most aerodynamically sophisticated production motorcycle chassis of its era, with a full fairing that reduced drag enough to allow a top speed of approximately 150 miles per hour. This was not simply more power than anything previously available. It was a genuinely different approach to the problem of producing a fast motorcycle, one in which aerodynamics, chassis geometry, and engine management were coordinated as a system rather than addressed independently. The GPZ 900R was also the motorcycle ridden by Tom Cruise's character in the 1986 film Top Gun, which remains the single most commercially effective piece of product placement in motorcycle history. Sales of the GPZ 900R increased dramatically in the months following the film's release in a way that was measurably larger than the film's cultural impact would have predicted. And the Kawasaki name became associated in the American popular imagination with speed, youth, and a specific kind of performance identity that the film's imagery had attached to it. The Kawasaki ZX-10R has been the most consistently competitive motorcycle in the World Superbike Championship across the past decade, winning championship titles with Tom Sykes in 2013 and with Jonathan Rea in 6 consecutive seasons from 2015 to 2020. Jonathan Rea's 6 consecutive World Superbike Championships on the ZX-10R represent the most sustained period of individual dominance in the championship's history, and the engineering development that Kawasaki's factory team conducted in parallel with Rea's championship campaigns produced a machine whose competitive margin over its rivals at peak was large enough to suggest fundamental engineering superiority rather than simply superior rider skill. The ZX-10R's dominance under Ria was the combined product of Kawasaki's engineering investment in the machine. The factory team's chassis and electronics development across 6 competitive seasons, Ria's exceptional technical feedback and riding ability, and the specific match between Ria's riding style and the ZX-10R's fundamental handling character. Each of these factors was necessary. None alone was sufficient. The result was 6 championships and a body of engineering development that has shaped the ZX-10R into one of the most capable production-based racing motorcycles available from any manufacturer. The Kawasaki Vulcan series, which covers V-twin cruiser motorcycles from 500cc to 2000cc displacement, represents the full breadth of Kawasaki's engagement with the American cruiser format across a displacement range that no other Japanese manufacturer has served with the same comprehensiveness. The Vulcan 2000, at 2053cc, the largest displacement production V-twin engine ever offered by a Japanese manufacturer, produces its power in a configuration that reflects careful attention to the sound and vibration character that cruiser riders associate with the format, with a 52-degree angle between cylinders that produces a specific firing interval and exhaust note calibrated for the market, rather than for the mechanical engineering convenience of a different angle. The Vulcan series customer chooses Kawasaki in the cruiser market not for the same reasons that Harley-Davidson's customer chooses Harley-Davidson, but for the specific combination of V-twin character, Japanese manufacturing quality, and a price point that reflects the mechanical content honestly without the cultural premium that Harley-Davidson commands. This specific combination has served a segment of the cruiser market that values the format's riding character without the cultural obligations of the dominant brand. And the Vulcan series has maintained this position with mechanical quality that justifies the choice consistently across multiple generations of riders. The Kawasaki KR500 and KR250, the 2-stroke Grand Prix machines that Kawasaki campaigned briefly in the early 1980s, represent a specific chapter of the company's racing history that is less well known than its subsequent 4-stroke success, but that is interesting in its own right as a demonstration of what Kawasaki's engineers were capable of when tasked with exploring the outer limits of a specific engine configuration. The KR500 used a rotary disc valve 2-stroke engine with a square configuration of 4 cylinders arranged 2 abreast in each of 2 rows, producing an engine that was unusually compact for its displacement and that was capable of the power outputs required to be competitive in the 500cc class. The KR500 raced in the 1980 and 1981 seasons without the championship success of Yamaha's or Honda's entries in the class, and Kawasaki withdrew from the 500cc class after the 1982 season. The KR250 was more competitive, and the engineering lessons from both machines informed subsequent Kawasaki engine development in ways that are visible in the performance motorcycle engines the company has produced in subsequent decades. The Kawasaki W800, the modern continuation of the W series that began with the W1 of 1965, is produced as a deliberate homage to a specific tradition of British-influenced motorcycle design that Kawasaki engaged with in its earliest years of international market development. The W800 uses a 773cc parallel twin engine with a classic visual character, bevel gear-driven overhead cams, and an overall aesthetic that references the motorcycles of the 1960s without apologizing for the contemporary reliability and emissions compliance that the current machine also provides. The W800's customer is a rider who values the aesthetic and mechanical tradition of the parallel twin in its classic form while requiring the reliability and refinement that modern engineering makes possible. And Kawasaki serves this customer with the same engineering seriousness that it applies to the ZX-10R. The W800 is not a performance machine. It is a machine of a different kind of excellence, one measured in the accuracy of its historical reference and the quality of its riding character at the modest speeds that its engine and chassis suggest, rather than at the limit of performance. Kawasaki makes both extremes because the engineering culture that produces the H2R is the same culture that makes the W800 correctly, and both machines reflect it honestly. The Kawasaki ZZR1100, introduced in 1990 and updated to the ZZR1100D in 1993, held the title of the world's fastest production motorcycle for a longer continuous period than any other machine in history. From its introduction until the arrival of the Honda CBR 1100XX Blackbird in 1996, the ZZR 1100 was the fastest production motorcycle on Earth, a status it defended not just in the first year of its production, but across 6 consecutive model years. The ZZR 1100's top speed of approximately 175 miles per hour was achieved through the combination of a 1.052cc inline-4 engine producing 125 horsepower and an aerodynamic full fairing developed in the same wind tunnel tradition that had produced the GPZ900R's fairing a decade earlier. The ZZR 1100 was not simply fast. It was stable at high speed in a way that made its ultimate performance accessible to riders who were not professional racers, which is both an engineering achievement and a form of responsibility that motorcycle manufacturers exercise differently depending on their philosophy. Kawasaki's philosophy has consistently been that high performance should be made as accessible as the fundamental physics allow, and the ZZR 1100's usable speed was the expression of this philosophy at the upper end of what street legal machinery could provide in 1990. The Kawasaki Ninja 400, introduced in 2018, resolved a problem that had existed in the small displacement sports bike category for years: how to produce a machine that is genuinely engaging for an experienced rider while remaining accessible to a new one. Previous attempts at this combination had generally succeeded at one dimension and compromised the other, producing either machines that were engaging for experienced riders and overwhelming for new ones, or machines that were safe for new riders and uninspiring for experienced ones. The Ninja 400 achieved the balance through a specific approach to chassis engineering that prioritized handling feedback and precision over either outright stability or outright agility. Combined with a 399cc parallel twin engine whose power delivery was progressive enough for new riders but whose peak output and character were satisfying enough for experienced ones. The Ninja 400 received nearly universal critical recognition as the best small displacement motorcycle available in its year of introduction, a conclusion that reflected a specific and deliberate engineering achievement rather than a happy accident, and it has maintained this reputation through subsequent model years. Liking this video tells the algorithm that this kind of content belongs in front of the people who need it. If you're here and this is working for you, take the 2 seconds. It matters more than you'd think. The Kawasaki Z900 RS, introduced in 2018, is the company's most explicit and most commercially successful engagement with the neo-retro movement, applying the visual language of the original Z900 of 1972 to a modern mechanical platform in a way that carries sufficient historical authenticity to satisfy riders who know the original and sufficient mechanical quality to satisfy riders who care only about the contemporary machine. The Z900 RS's visual character, with its round headlamp, teardrop fuel tank, and exposed exhaust headers, references the Z900 accurately enough that photographs of the two machines placed side by side reveal an obvious family relationship despite being separated by nearly 5 decades of engineering development. The machine's commercial success, which has made it one of Kawasaki's most consistent sellers in the premium segment since its introduction, reflects the depth of the emotional connection that riders have to the original Z-series machines and the degree to which the Z900 RS honors that connection without being merely nostalgic. It is a machine that understands what it is referencing and respects that reference completely, which is a more difficult design achievement than producing something that simply looks vintage. The Kawasaki Ninja H2, the road-legal version of the H2R that opened this journey tonight, is the most technically sophisticated production motorcycle that any manufacturer has offered for road use in the history of the industry. The supercharger-equipped engine produces 210 horsepower in road-legal tune, reduced from the track-only H2R's 310 to meet emissions and noise regulations while retaining the fundamental character of a supercharged engine's power delivery, which is different from a naturally aspirated engine's character in specific and experiential ways. A supercharged engine at high throttle openings produces a specific sensation at the handlebars, a quality of urgency and continuity in the power delivery that experienced riders consistently describe in terms that reference the feeling of acceleration that exceeds what the engine's own inertia would suggest. The turbine sound of the supercharger at speed, audible through the exhaust note and the mechanical sounds of the engine, adds an auditory dimension to the riding experience that no naturally aspirated motorcycle provides. The H2 is not simply a very fast motorcycle. It is a motorcycle that operates through a different mechanism than its competitors, and the experience of riding it reflects this difference in ways that extend beyond the power output, figures into the fundamental character of the interaction between machine and rider. The development history of the Kawasaki supercharger used in the H2 series is worth understanding specifically, because the engineering challenges involved in designing a mechanically driven centrifugal compressor for a motorcycle engine are substantially different from those involved in turbocharger applications and were not well precedented in the production motorcycle context when Kawasaki's engineers began the project. A centrifugal supercharger adds complexity without the turbocharger's inherent thermal efficiency challenges, because it is mechanically driven from the crankshaft rather than from exhaust gas energy, which means it adds parasitic drag to the engine at all times rather than utilizing otherwise wasted energy. The compensation for this parasitic loss is the immediate boost response that a supercharger provides compared to the turbocharger's characteristic lag, which is critical for a performance motorcycle whose power demand changes rapidly and unpredictably with the rider's throttle inputs. Kawasaki's engineers designed the supercharger's impeller in-house rather than using an existing automotive or industrial component, because no existing component had the specific combination of flow rate, pressure ratio, rotational speed, and physical dimensions that the H2 engine required. The impeller they designed runs at speeds that required new approaches to bearing design and material specification, and the reliability of the production units at those operating conditions reflects engineering work that had no direct precedent. The Kawasaki Versus series, which covers the Versys 650 and Versys 1000 in most markets, represents Kawasaki's engagement with the do-it-all motorcycle concept in a form that prioritizes versatility over any specific performance dimension, without sacrificing the riding engagement that distinguishes Kawasaki's products across categories. The Versys name is a Kawasaki invention derived from versatility, and the machines that carry it have been developed with a specific brief to be genuinely capable across the full range of road conditions that a rider might encounter in the course of a year's riding in any market where it is sold, from urban commuting to motorway touring to mountain road riding, without demanding that the rider change their technique or their equipment significantly between these different contexts. The Versys handling is calibrated for this breadth of application rather than for any specific peak within it, and the result is a machine whose capability across the range is more valuable to more riders than the exceptional capability in a single dimension that the more specialized machines in Kawasaki's range provide. The Versys rider and the ZX-10R rider are different people, and Kawasaki's ability to serve both with equal engineering seriousness is a measure of the breadth of the company's engineering culture. The Kawasaki GPZ500, known in some markets as the EX500, was produced from 1987 to 2009 in a form that changed relatively little over its 22-year production run. And its longevity reflects the same principle that the Honda XR650L demonstrates. A machine that is correctly calibrated for a specific purpose at its introduction can serve that purpose reliably across a long period without requiring the continuous development that machines serving less stable requirements need. The GPZ500's 498cc parallel twin engine, its moderate weight, its accessible power delivery, and its comfortable ergonomics made it one of the most frequently recommended starter motorcycles in markets where its size was appropriate for the licensing regime and the rider demographic. The machine's 22-year production run was not a consequence of Kawasaki neglecting the segment. It was a consequence of the GPZ500 being good enough at what it did that no subsequent development produced a compelling reason to replace it until emissions regulations made the carbureted engine impractical to continue. The machine that lasts not by being updated, but by being correct, is a form of engineering success that the industry rarely produces, and that the market rarely recognizes adequately. The Kawasaki Eliminator, produced in various forms from the mid-1980s through the 1990s, was Kawasaki's first sustained attempt at the Japanese custom motorcycle format, adapting the visual language of American drag racing machines to the mechanical platform of the company's production motorcycles. The Eliminator's long, low profile, stretched front end, and visual emphasis on horizontal length over vertical height were direct references to the drag racing machines that the name invoked. And the machine found a specific market among riders who wanted the custom aesthetic without the mechanical challenges of building or maintaining a true custom machine. The Eliminator was not a performance motorcycle by the standards of Kawasaki's racing-derived products. It was a styling exercise that happened to be mechanically reliable and practically usable in daily riding conditions, which made it a commercial success in markets where the custom aesthetic was in demand and where the engineering quality of Japanese manufacturing was valued. The Eliminator's legacy in Kawasaki's product history is the demonstration that the company's engineering capability could be applied to aesthetic purposes as effectively as to performance ones. The Kawasaki ZXR 750, produced from 1989 to 1995 as the company's superbike racing homologation machine, is the machine that established Kawasaki's credibility in the World Superbike Championship and provided the engineering foundation for the subsequent development of the ZX7R and ZX10R that followed it. The ZXR 750's development was directly informed by Kawasaki's factory racing program in a period when the superbike rules required that competition machines be closely related to road-going production vehicles, and the road machine and the race machine were developed in parallel rather than sequentially. This parallel development approach, in which the racing machine's requirements influenced the production machine's specification and the production machine's commercial constraints influenced what the racing machine could be, produced a motorcycle whose road-going qualities reflected racing development more directly than the typical process of adapting a road machine for track use afterward. The ZXR 750 in road form was a capable sports machine. In race form, it was competitive at the highest level of the class, and the connection between the two reflected a development philosophy that Kawasaki has maintained across subsequent generations of its superbike class production machines. The night is steady, and the engine note is consistent, and the facts keep arriving at their own pace. This is what the channel is for. Stay with it. Kawasaki's involvement in the development of traction control systems for production motorcycles has been led primarily by the requirements of the ZX10R's competitive performance in the World Superbike Championship, where the ability to manage rear-wheel traction at corner exits is one of the most significant determinants of lap time. The traction control systems that Kawasaki's factory superbike team developed in the racing context were subsequently adapted for production use in successive generations of the ZX10R and ZX6R, and the calibration philosophy that informed the racing system, which prioritizes the maintenance of traction through early and subtle intervention rather than the correction of established wheel spin. Through aggressive power reduction, has shaped the character of Kawasaki's production traction control in ways that experienced riders consistently identify as distinctive and confidence-inspiring. The racing-derived traction control of the current ZX10R is one of the most sophisticated systems available on any production motorcycle, and the degree to which it enables riders to approach the machine's performance limits with confidence rather than with apprehension reflects the quality of the calibration work done through years of competitive development. The Kawasaki Z650, introduced in its current form in 2017, uses the same 6N49cc parallel twin engine with a 180-degree crank firing order that powers the Ninja 650 in a naked bike chassis that offers the engine's character in a more direct and unmediated form than the fared machine provides. The Z650's positioning in the middleweight naked class places it in direct competition with Yamaha's MT-07 and Honda's CB650R. And the specific character of the machine, its steering precision, its engine response, and the quality of its chassis feedback through the bars and seat reflects Kawasaki's calibration of those dimensions for the specific riding style that the naked middleweight customer brings to the machine. The Z650 is not the most powerful machine in its class, nor the most technologically sophisticated, nor the most visually dramatic. What it offers is a riding character that is direct and honest, and that rewards the rider who brings a specific kind of attention to it, with a feedback quality that machines calibrated for a wider range of rider types sometimes dilute. The Z650 is a specialist machine at a generalist price, and the riders who find this specific combination are among the most satisfied owners in the segment. The Kawasaki W800 Cafe and Street editions, introduced alongside the standard W800, reflect an understanding that the neo-retro market contains within it distinct subcategories of rider preference rather than a single, undifferentiated appetite for historical styling. The Cafe Edition applies the Cafe Racer aesthetic to the W800's mechanical platform, with low bars, a solo seat, and details that reference the British Cafe Racer tradition of the early 1960s. The Street Edition takes the same machine in a different direction, with higher bars, white-wall tires, and details that reference the American Street Custom tradition. Both machines use the W800's engine and chassis with minimal modification, which means the mechanical excellence of the underlying platform is common to both, while the aesthetic expression of that platform is tailored to distinct rider communities. This understanding that the same mechanical foundation can serve different aesthetic purposes without mechanical compromise is itself a specific kind of engineering intelligence that reflects respect for the diversity of the market rather than a homogenizing impulse toward a single correct version of any design concept. Kawasaki's factory endurance racing program, which has participated in the Suzuka 8 Hours and other major endurance events across several decades, has produced engineering knowledge about sustained high-performance operation that informs the durability standards applied to the production motorcycles built on the platforms that the endurance racers use. An endurance race machine must operate at performance levels that exceed its production counterpart for 8 continuous hours, managing thermal loads, lubricant degradation, and component wear at a sustained intensity that most production use never approaches. The solutions that Kawasaki's endurance racing engineers developed for these specific challenges in bearing materials, oil system design, cooling system capacity, and component material selection feed back into production machine engineering in modified form, contributing to the durability that production Kawasaki motorcycles demonstrate across extended ownership periods. The endurance racing program is not solely a marketing exercise. It is a development tool that produces specific and applicable engineering knowledge. And the production machines that inherit this knowledge are more durable for it. The Kawasaki Ninja 300, which served as the entry-level machine in the Ninja line prior to the introduction of the Ninja 400, established the Ninja name in the small displacement segment and introduced generations of new riders to the brand through a machine that delivered the Ninja character, the aggressive fairing, the committed ergonomics, the sense of belonging to the performance lineage at a price and displacement level accessible to the youngest and least experienced segment of the motorcycle market. The Ninja 300's commercial success in the period from 2013 to 2017 reflected the combination of a genuinely good small machine and the accumulated brand equity of the Ninja name, which carried associations with the GPZ 900R, the ZX10R, and the H2 that gave the 300 a cultural connection to machines far beyond its own capabilities. This is one of the specific ways in which a strong brand name generates commercial value. It allows an entry-level product to carry associations with the brand's upper-tier products in a way that a new or unfamiliar brand cannot achieve without the accumulated history that produces those associations. Kawasaki's approach to the adventure motorcycle segment, which arrived somewhat later than Honda's and BMW's establishment of the category, reflects the company's characteristic approach of studying what the market has defined and producing something that adds a specific performance dimension that existing products do not fully provide. The Versys series served the street-focused end of the adventure spectrum, but the introduction of the Versys X300 and subsequently the Kelex range for more serious off-road use filled a gap between the touring-oriented Versys and the competition-derived Kelex machines. Kawasaki's adventure product strategy has been more fragmented than Honda's or BMW's consolidated Africa Twin and GS lineups, reflecting a corporate decision to address different dimensions of the adventure market with specific products rather than a single comprehensive machine. Whether this fragmentation is a strength, allowing each product to serve its specific purpose well, or a weakness, preventing any single Kawasaki adventure machine from achieving the cultural dominance that the Africa Twin and GS have established, is a question that the sales figures answer differently in different markets. The Kawasaki Z1000 and its naked sibling the Z Series have maintained a consistent presence in the middleweight to large displacement naked bike segment since the 2003 introduction of the first modern Z1000, and across successive generations the Z family has been characterized by a specific combination of visual aggression and riding engagement that is different in character from both the more refined naked machines of Yamaha and Honda and the more focused sports machines in Kawasaki's own lineup. The Z1000's engine, derived from the ZX-10R's unit in modified tune, produces a power delivery character that rewards the rider who engages with it specifically rather than using it as a default setting. The chassis, whose geometry reflects a sporting brief applied to an upright riding position, provides a handling precision that experienced riders describe as demanding in the best sense of the word, meaning that it asks something specific of the rider and returns something specific in exchange. The Z1000 is a machine with a specific personality, and the riders who choose it are choosing that personality as much as they are choosing the specification. The quiet deepens and the facts settle into it, one after the other, steady and unhurried. Kawasaki's story is the story of an organization that came to motorcycles from shipbuilding and aircraft, that brought the engineering standards of those disciplines to the making of things that humans ride for pleasure and for speed, and that has produced across more than half a century a specific lineage of machines that are, in the assessment of the people who have ridden them, among the most honest and the most demanding expressions of what a production motorcycle can be. The Kawasaki Zephyr series, produced from 1990 to 1997 in 400cc, 550cc, 750cc, and 1100cc configurations, was Kawasaki's response to the neo-retro movement of the early 1990s at a time when the category had not yet acquired that name and when the machines it described were understood simply as motorcycles whose styling referenced the era of the air-cooled inline-four. The Zephyr machines used air-cooled engines in configurations that recalled the Z-Series machines of the 1970s, and they were sold to riders who had ridden those original machines and who found in the Zephyrs a contemporary alternative whose mechanical reliability exceeded what the 1970s originals had provided while retaining the visual character that made them emotionally appealing. The Zephyr series was commercially successful in Japan and in some European markets, and it established the template for what would eventually become a sustained and global neo-retro movement in motorcycle design. The Z900 RS of 2018 is the direct descendant in concept, if not in mechanical lineage, of what the Zephyr 750 was attempting in 1991. The Kawasaki KLR 650, a dual sport motorcycle produced from 1987 to 2022 with minimal mechanical change, developed a following among long-distance overlanding riders that transformed the machine from a modest off-road and dual-purpose motorcycle into something that carries specific and intense cultural meaning for a specific community. The KLR 650's specific appeal was its combination of manageable size and weight, a large enough fuel tank for extended range between fuel stops, a single-cylinder engine simple enough to be serviced in the field without specialized tools, and a durability that was proven through decades of use in the most demanding conditions that extended overland travel produces. Adventure travelers who crossed continents on KLR 650s wrote about the experience in ways that built the machine's reputation in their community beyond what any marketing could have achieved. And the community that formed around the machine maintained the knowledge of its quirks, its weaknesses, and its specific maintenance requirements with the kind of collective knowledge base that sustains a machine across decades in conditions for which it was not originally designed. The KLR 650's 35-year production run is a measure of this community's sustained engagement with the machine, and a community's response to its eventual discontinuation reflected the depth of the relationship that had been built. The facts have been arriving steadily throughout this first half of the night, each one a specific piece of a story that is longer and more interesting than any summary can capture. Kawasaki's history is the history of an organization that began in heavy industry and found in motorcycles a specific expression of the engineering values that heavy industry produces: precision, durability, a willingness to address the most demanding engineering challenges directly rather than through compromise, and a consistent commitment to offering the most performance that the current state of engineering knowledge makes possible. The machines that carry the Kawasaki name are the outcome of this commitment applied across more than 50 years of motorcycle production, and the specific character they share, the combination of performance focus and engineering honesty that experienced riders identify as distinctively Kawasaki, is the consequence of that commitment maintained consistently enough to become the identity of the brand itself. The Kawasaki Ninja ZX6R occupies a specific and contested position in the 600cc supersport market as the machine that many experienced riders consider the most focused and most demanding member of the class. Calibrated for the rider who brings precise technique rather than for the rider who is still developing it. The ZX6R's engine produces strong power in the upper portion of the rev range, which rewards riders who commit to carrying engine speed through corners rather than managing throttle from lower revs in the way that machines with more mid-range torque allow. This characteristic, which is a deliberate tuning choice rather than an engineering limitation, produces a machine that is deeply satisfying for the rider whose technique matches its demands, and that is more challenging for those whose technique does not. Kawasaki has maintained this character through successive generations of the ZX6R while making progressive improvements to chassis precision and electronic sophistication, and the result is a machine that in its current generation provides both the demanding character of its predecessors and the electronic support that allows riders who are still developing to manage the machine safely while learning. The evolution of the ZX6R from a machine that required the rider to come to it toward a machine that meets the rider partway without compromising its fundamental character is one of the more interesting long-term development stories in the Sports 600 class. The Kawasaki Concours, known in most markets as the GTR 1400 or ZG 1400, represents the company's commitment to the full-dress touring segment with a machine whose engineering reflects the performance culture of the broader Kawasaki lineup applied to the touring brief rather than a compromise between performance and touring comfort. The Concours uses a 1352cc inline-4 engine derived from the ZZR 1400's unit, producing approximately 154 horsepower in a machine with integrated hard luggage, an electronically adjustable windscreen, and ergonomics designed for full-day riding. The performance heritage of the engine, which is capable of acceleration well beyond what any touring use requires, gives the Concours a specific character on open roads that other touring machines whose engines are designed from the outset for moderate power output cannot replicate. The concours rider is a specific type of touring rider who values the knowledge that the machine has significant performance reserve and who uses that reserve selectively rather than continuously. And the machine's character reflects this rider accurately enough that the concours has maintained a loyal community of owners across multiple generations of production. The Kawasaki ZX-14R, known in some markets as the ZZR-1400, inherited the mantle of world's fastest production motorcycle from the ZZR-1100 when it was introduced in 2006, and has maintained a competitive claim on that status through subsequent development. The ZX-14R uses a 1441cc inline-4 engine, producing approximately 210 horsepower, in a machine with the aerodynamic fairing that allows its power to be translated into forward velocity with the efficiency that the speed claim requires. The ZX-14R's top speed is electronically limited at 186 miles per hour in most markets, which is itself a statement about the machine's underlying capability. The electronic limiter is removed for circuit use, where the unrestricted machine is capable of terminal velocities that exceed what most riders can experience in most circumstances. The ZX-14R is Kawasaki's most extreme expression of the philosophy that a production motorcycle should offer the highest performance that engineering can make reliably available, and the engineering of the machine, from the combustion chamber dimensions to the aerodynamic optimization of the fairing, reflects the totality of this commitment without compromise. The Kawasaki Ninja 650, which uses the same 649cc parallel twin engine as the Z650 in a half-faired sports touring configuration, is one of the most frequently purchased motorcycles in European markets among riders transitioning from smaller machines to A-class licensed motorcycles. The Ninja 650's balance of accessible power, comfortable ergonomics, an adequate fairing for weather protection on longer journeys, and a price point that reflects the mechanical content honestly has made it a machine that new license holders can buy with confidence and that experienced riders can maintain for extended periods without feeling that they have outgrown it. The specific character of the Ninja 650's engine, which produces strong mid-range torque with a linear delivery that encourages smooth throttle management, is appropriate for the rider who is developing their technique, and the quality of the chassis' feedback through the bars and seat gives the developing rider information about the machine state that supports rather than undermines the learning process. The Ninja 650 is a machine that has been designed by people who understand what it means to be in the process of becoming a better rider, and this understanding shows in the specific calibration choices that distinguish it from machines designed to a different brief. Kawasaki's commercial relationship with the racing world extends beyond factory team participation to the sale of race-ready machines to private competitors through the Kawasaki Racing Team program, which provides prepared Ninja ZX-10RR machines for purchase by privateer teams in the World Superbike and European Superbike series. The ZX-10RR is the homologation special version of the ZX-10R, produced in limited numbers to meet the rule requirements that allow it to form the basis of competitive machines in the relevant championships, and its specification includes higher quality components, closer manufacturing tolerances, and specific engine and chassis details that the standard ZX-10R does not include. The existence of the ZX-10RR as a separately specified and separately produced machine is itself a statement about Kawasaki's approach to competition. The racing machine and the road machine are different objects serving different purposes, and the road machine should not be compromised in its role by the demands of competition any more than the race machine should be compromised in its role by the requirements of road legality. This separation of purpose is an engineering honesty that reflects the clarity with which Kawasaki defines what each of its products is for. Subscribe to the Sleepy Rider channel. The Kawasaki story has more road ahead tonight, and the channel will be following it with you. Subscribe now. The Kawasaki Brute Force 750, the company's flagship all-terrain vehicle, carries the same engineering culture into the off-road four-wheel vehicle category that produces the ZX-10R in the road racing context. Kawasaki's ATV products are engineered with the performance focus that characterizes the motorcycle lineup, and the Brute Force 750 in particular, which uses a 749cc V-twin engine producing substantial output for the ATV class, demonstrates the company's commitment to offering the maximum performance that engineering can make reliably available, regardless of whether the product is intended for the racetrack or the trail. The engineering knowledge that Kawasaki accumulates through ATV development, particularly in the areas of V-twin engine performance and chassis calibration for off-road conditions, does not flow as directly into motorcycle development as Honda's and Yamaha's cross-category engineering does, because the ATV and motorcycle development teams at Kawasaki are more organizationally separated. But the shared engineering culture of performance focus and mechanical honesty produces products in both categories that reflect the same fundamental values, and the Brute Force's commercial success in its category reflects the same customer recognition of those values that the Ninja's success reflects in the motorcycle category. The Kawasaki ZX-4RR, introduced in 2023 as the company's response to the growing interest in smaller displacement sports bikes capable of genuine circuit competition, used a 399cc inline-4 engine in a machine designed specifically for the demands of track day and club racing participation by riders who had found the 600cc Supersport too demanding or too expensive to campaign seriously. The ZX-4RR's four-cylinder engine in a 400cc displacement is itself an unusual engineering choice that reflects Kawasaki's long history with small displacement multi-cylinder racing engines. From the KR Series two-strokes of the early 1980s to the ZX Sharp 400 that dominated Japanese domestic racing in the 1990s. The four-cylinder configuration in 400cc produces a specific high-revving, high-frequency engine character that the parallel twin engines of most competing machines in the class do not offer. And the riders who value this specific character are the specific customers for whom the ZX-4RR was designed. The machine's introduction reflects an understanding that the market for performance-focused, small-displacement machinery is larger and more specifically motivated than the sales volumes might suggest, and that serving this market correctly requires a machine calibrated for the specific performance that its customers seek, rather than a machine designed to the minimum performance level that the category tolerance allows. The Kawasaki ER6N and ER6F, produced from 2005 to 2016 and subsequently replaced by the Z650 and Ninja 650, were among the most successful introductions of a new platform Kawasaki made in the first decade of the 21st century. The parallel twin engine that the ER6 series introduced was a genuinely new engine design rather than a revision of existing technology, and the specific character that the design team imparted to it, strong mid-range torque, a linear power delivery, and an exhaust note that was more characterful than most parallel twin engines of comparable displacement, set a standard for the configuration that subsequent Kawasaki parallel twin developments have maintained. The ER6 series established the parallel twin as a credible platform for performance motorcycle applications at Kawasaki, in a way that subsequent platform applications, the Versys 650, the Ninja 650 and the Z650 could build on rather than starting from scratch. The engineering investment in a new engine platform is justified by the breadth of products that the platform can support. And the ER6's engine family has supported a broader range of successful products than almost any other platform introduction in Kawasaki's recent history. The specific handling character of the Kawasaki ZX-10R in its championship-winning configuration, as described by Jonathan Rea across his 6 championship seasons, is a handling character that rewards a specific corner entry technique, approaching the corner with the front tire carrying more load than the rear through a combination of braking force and trail braking, and then transitioning to corner exit traction management with a precision that the machine's chassis communicates through the bars and foot pegs with specific and immediate feedback. Rea's descriptions of riding the ZX-10R at the limit, which are more technically detailed and more mechanically specific than most riders' accounts of their machine's behavior, provide an unusual window into what an elite rider perceives through the controls of a competition motorcycle at the limits of the machine's capability. The chassis that Kawasaki's engineers developed in response to Rea's specific feedback across 6 seasons, a chassis calibrated for a specific type of corner entry and exit behavior at specific track conditions and tire temperatures, is one of the most specifically developed production-based racing platforms in the history of the World Superbike Championship, and the understanding of motorcycle dynamics that its development produced has informed Kawasaki's road machine development in specific and measurable ways. The Kawasaki Ninja H2 Carbon, a further weight-reduced version of the road-legal H2, uses carbon fiber bodywork components and other weight reduction measures to reduce the machine's mass relative to the standard H2 while maintaining its mechanical specification. The use of carbon fiber on a production Kawasaki represents a manufacturing investment in materials that are substantially more expensive to process than the aluminum and steel that form the majority of production motorcycle construction. And the justification for this investment in the H2 carbon is the specific performance benefit that weight reduction at high power levels produces. A 10-kilogram reduction in the weight of a 210 horsepower motorcycle produces a meaningful improvement in acceleration and handling that is perceptible to the rider in a way that the same weight reduction in a 50 horsepower motorcycle is not. And the H2 Carbon's customer base is the specific group of riders for whom this specific improvement justifies the specific premium. Kawasaki does not apologize for the price of the H2 Carbon or attempt to justify it beyond the mechanical content that commands it. The machine is what it is, and the riders who want it understand what it is and why it costs what it costs. The Kawasaki Z-Series engines of the 1970s and early 1980s, the double overhead cam inline 4s that powered the Z900, Z1000, and Z1300, were the engineering foundation on which Kawasaki's global performance identity was built, and the specific technical choices made in their design, the twin overhead cams, the large displacement, the high redline relative to competing designs, established the character that subsequent generations of Kawasaki performance engines have maintained in their essential nature. The twin overhead cam design, which Kawasaki committed to when Honda's CB750 used a single overhead cam, produced a more complex and more expensive engine, but one that breathed more freely at high revs and produced a different quality of power delivery at the top of the RPM range. This specific choice, made in the context of designing an engine that needed to exceed the CB750's performance definitively rather than marginally, reflects the engineering philosophy that has defined Kawasaki's approach across subsequent decades when faced with the choice between the simpler solution and the more capable solution. Choose the more capable solution and build the engineering quality required to make it reliable. The Kawasaki Ninja H2SX and H2SX SE sport touring versions of the supercharged H2 platform extended the supercharger technology to a machine designed for distance and comfort rather than for track performance. The H2SX produces 200 horsepower in a machine with a full fairing, a larger windscreen, a comfort-optimized seat, and provisions for luggage attachment. And it uses the supercharged engine's specific power delivery character in the context of a machine that will cover long distances at sustained highway speeds rather than lapping circuits. The combination of 200 horsepower and a touring brief is one that no other manufacturer currently offers in a single machine, and the H2SX's specific appeal is the knowledge that the machine has more performance available than any touring situation will require, and that this reserve is accompanied by the specific character of a supercharged engine that touring at highway speeds exercises in a way that naturally aspirated engines do not. The H2SX rider is a person for whom the knowledge of what their machine can do matters beyond the occasions on which they actually do it. And the machine serves this specific form of rider satisfaction honestly. There is a meditative quality to these long lists of facts about machines that many people find calming, not because motorcycles themselves are calm, but because the knowledge of how they work and where they came from and what they have done in the world settles the mind in a specific way that is different from the settling produced by music or by silence alone. The Kawasaki story has this quality. It is a story of consistent purpose and consistent excellence across a long time, and consistency in any domain is a form of calm that the mind recognizes and responds to. Let the facts keep coming. There is no hurry in any of this. The Kawasaki Ninja 400 ABS, the model that added anti-lock brakes to the already excellent Ninja 400 chassis, completed the machine's claim to be the best small displacement sports bike available in its class across both the performance and safety dimensions. The addition of ABS to a performance-oriented small displacement machine is a more complex engineering exercise than adding it to a touring machine, because the braking character of a performance chassis, which rewards precise and sometimes aggressive front brake modulation, must be preserved in its essential quality, while the ABS intervention prevents the wheel lockup that imprecise modulation can produce. The specific calibration of the Ninja 400's ABS, which intervenes late and subtly in the braking sequence to prevent lockup without disrupting the rider's feel for the front wheel's loading, reflects the calibration work done by engineers who understood that the riders buying the Ninja 400 were riders who valued the quality of the braking feel as part of the riding experience rather than simply as a safety feature. ABS calibrated to preserve rider feel while providing the safety benefit is a more difficult engineering outcome than ABS calibrated only for safety. And the Ninja 400's ABS is one of the better examples of the former approach available at its price point. The Kawasaki Z1000SX, the sport touring version of the Z1000's platform, demonstrates the same principle that the H2SX demonstrates at a higher level of the performance range, that a Kawasaki performance engine can be packaged in a touring-oriented machine without losing the engine's character or compromising the machine's touring capability. The Z1000SX uses the Z1000's 1043cc inline-4 engine in a half-faired chassis with integrated luggage provisions, and the engine's specific character, a strong and immediate mid-range delivery with a high revving capability that rewards riders who explore the upper portion of the tachometer, gives the Z1000SX a specific identity in the sport touring segment that its competitors, which typically use engines calibrated more conservatively for the touring role, cannot replicate. The Z1000SX rider chooses the machine specifically for the combination of engine character and touring capability, and the machine delivers both with the consistency that Kawasaki's engineering culture requires of all its production output. The Kawasaki KX series of motocross machines, which Kawasaki has produced since the early 1970s, represents the company's sustained engagement with off-road competition that has produced technical insights about suspension, weight distribution, and engine performance at extreme duty cycles that inform the development of road machines in indirect but real ways. The KX450, the current flagship of the motocross line, is a machine of highly specific purpose whose engineering reflects decades of development in collaboration with factory riders at the highest level of motocross competition. The suspension calibration of the KX450, which manages the specific impact loads of motocross racing with a precision and responsiveness that allows riders to maintain maximum speed across all terrain types, reflects engineering principles about spring rate selection, damping ratio calibration, and linkage geometry that are applicable to road machine suspension development in modified form. The engineers who work on Kawasaki's road machine suspension have access to the understanding developed through motocross racing suspension development, and this access produces road machine suspension that is more specifically calibrated for real-world performance than the suspension of manufacturers without equivalent off-road development experience. The Kawasaki ZX25R, introduced in 2020 primarily for the Indonesian and Japanese markets, is a 250cc inline four-cylinder motorcycle whose existence is remarkable for a single reason: it revs to 17,000 RPM. A 250cc engine with 4 cylinders means each cylinder displaces 62.5 cc, roughly the size of a standard light bulb, and making an engine of these dimensions reliable and powerful at 17,000 RPM requires a depth of small displacement multi-cylinder engine knowledge that only Kawasaki's specific history with such configurations can reliably provide. The ZX25R produces approximately 45 horsepower at its redline, which is a significant power-to-displacement ratio for a road-legal four-stroke engine, and the experience of riding it at high revs is unlike anything available from any other small-displacement road machine currently in production. The engine's high-frequency note at 15,000 RPM in a machine that weighs approximately 182 kilograms is an experience that owners describe with a consistency that suggests it is genuinely unusual and genuinely memorable. The ZX25R exists because Kawasaki's engineers understood that they could make it, because the market it serves finds it genuinely valuable, and because the engineering culture of the company regards the demonstration of capability as a sufficient justification for the investment required. The road has been long tonight, and the engine has been steady throughout it. The facts have arrived in the order they arrived, each one specific and true. Each one a piece of a story about an organization that came from ships and planes and found in motorcycles, a specific expression of the engineering values that large and serious industrial enterprise produces. There is more of this story ahead, and the night is still generous enough to hold it all. Let your breathing slow. Let the weight of the day settle further. The engine note is consistent, and the road ahead is clear. The Kawasaki Ninja 1000 SX, the current generation of the sport touring machine that began as the Z1000 SX, has been progressively developed into one of the most comprehensively equipped and most electronically sophisticated sport touring motorcycles in its price class. With an electronics package that includes cornering abs, traction control, cruise control, and a smartphone connectivity system in a machine whose fundamental performance character has been maintained across the development of its electronics overlay. The challenge of adding electronic sophistication to a machine with Kawasaki's specific power delivery character without compromising the riding feel that defines the machine's appeal is the same challenge that faces every performance motorcycle manufacturer as regulatory requirements and customer expectations drive the adoption of electronics across more and more of the product range. Kawasaki's implementation in the Ninja 1000 SX reflects the same calibration philosophy that appears across the company's electronics-equipped models. The electronics are calibrated to be transparent to the rider in the normal operating conditions rather than intrusive, and their intervention in exceptional conditions is calibrated to be smooth and confidence-inspiring rather than sudden and disruptive. This calibration philosophy requires engineering effort and development time that the electronic specification alone does not communicate, and the quality of the riding experience in machines where it has been well executed reflects that investment. The Kawasaki Z-H2, the naked bike version of the supercharged H2 platform, extends the supercharger technology to a format where the machine's aerodynamic exposure means that the rider experiences the supercharged engine's power delivery in a more direct and unmediated way than the fully faired H2 provides. Without the fairing's aerodynamic assistance, the ZH2's 200 horsepower meets more wind resistance at high speeds, which actually serves the useful purpose of providing physical feedback through the rider's body about the machine's speed that the faired H2 partially suppresses. The ZH2 rider is typically a rider with significant experience who values the immediacy of the naked bike format even at performance levels that most naked bikes do not approach. And the machine's combination of the supercharged engine's specific character and the naked bike's direct sensory experience produces something that no other production machine currently offers. The ZH2 represents Kawasaki's willingness to apply the most extreme engineering it currently produces to formats across the product range rather than confining the supercharger technology to a single model. And the result is a family of supercharged machines that demonstrates how broadly applicable the engineering platform is. The Kawasaki Eliminator 500, which uses the same parallel twin engine as the Ninja 500 and Versys 500 in a low, long cruiser configuration with forward-set foot pegs and pulled-back bars, demonstrates Kawasaki's ability to apply the same mechanical foundation to genuinely different motorcycle categories. The Eliminator's engine is calibrated differently from the Ninja's version of the same unit, with mapping that emphasizes low-end torque over high RPM performance to suit the cruiser's riding character and ergonomics, reflecting an understanding that the same engine can serve different riding styles if it is tuned to produce the power delivery character that each style rewards. The Eliminator targets a specific rider who wants the cruiser format's relaxed riding position and low seat height, without the commitment to either Harley-Davidson's cultural weight or the larger Japanese cruiser's physical size and price. It is a machine that says, this format is available to you at this price and in this size. And the quality of the engineering behind it is the same quality that produces the ZX-10R. The Kawasaki KLX300, The current street-legal dual sport version of the off-road KLX platform provides the trail-capable qualities that the dual sport customer requires in a machine whose single-cylinder engine and simple specification keep it practical in the field maintainability sense that the most dedicated dual sport riders value. The KLX 300's specific combination of ground clearance, suspension travel, engine character, and weight reflects an understanding of what the dual sport rider actually needs in the conditions they actually ride, rather than a maximized specification across dimensions that are less relevant to real-world use. This specificity of purpose is a form of engineering intelligence that results in machines that serve their intended purpose more completely than machines designed to the maximum specification across every measured dimension. And the KLX 300 is one of the cleaner expressions of this philosophy in the current Kawasaki lineup. The Knight has held all of this generously and without rushing any of it. The facts have traveled at their own pace, each one landing softly, none insisting that the previous one be held precisely in place for the next to make sense. The Kawasaki story accumulates rather than resolves, each fact adding to a picture that is larger and more interesting than any individual piece of it. There is more ahead, and the road is still wide open. The Kawasaki Ninja ZX-10RR SE, the highest specification version of the World Championship-winning ZX-10R platform, uses Linz electronic suspension and a set of engine and chassis specifications developed directly from the factory World Superbike Team's machines. The SE designation indicates the highest level of factory-derived performance available on a publicly purchasable machine, and the engineering content that justifies this designation is specific rather than cosmetic. The suspension components are qualitatively different from those of the standard ZX-10R in their ability to be adjusted and calibrated for specific circuit conditions by competent technicians. And the engine specification includes features that improve breathing and combustion efficiency at the extreme. Of the machine's operating range, the ZX-10RR SE is a machine for the specific rider who will take it to a circuit, have a technician spend time calibrating the suspension to their specific weight and riding style, and use the resulting machine at the limit of both rider and machine capability. That this rider exists in sufficient numbers to justify Kawasaki's investment in producing the machine is itself a statement about the depth and seriousness of the track day and club racing market that Kawasaki serves through its product range. The machine is not produced to demonstrate what Kawasaki can do. It is produced because specific people need exactly what it provides. And a company builds what those people need. The Kawasaki W Series, in its current W800 form, is manufactured at Kawasaki's Akashi factory in Japan, under quality standards that reflect the company's manufacturing heritage in precision industrial production rather than high-volume consumer goods production. The Akashi factory, which has been Kawasaki's primary motorcycle manufacturing facility since the company's earliest years of motorcycle production, operates with a workforce that has accumulated specific knowledge of Kawasaki's particular manufacturing processes over career spans that in many cases exceed 2 decades. The institutional knowledge that this workforce carries about the specific requirements of producing Kawasaki's engines and chassis to the tolerances that the company specifies is one of the less visible competitive advantages that the company maintains against competitors who have adopted more geographically distributed manufacturing structures. The machines that emerge from Akashi carry in their construction the specific attention that an experienced and stable workforce brings to familiar work, and this attention is perceptible in the quality of the finished product to anyone who examines it closely. The W800 in particular, as a machine whose manufacturing quality is central to its identity as a precision interpretation of a historical tradition, benefits from this workforce knowledge more directly than the machines whose specification is defined primarily by their electronic sophistication. The Kawasaki Ninja 500, introduced in 2023 as a reborn nameplate on a new parallel twin platform, represents Kawasaki's repositioning of a name that carried significant historical meaning in the small displacement market to a current machine that can carry the heritage of its predecessor while offering the engineering quality that the contemporary market expects. The original Ninja 500, the EX 500 or GPZ 500, served the accessible sports market for over 2 decades. The new Ninja 500 uses the parallel twin engine from the Ninja 400 in a larger displacement configuration, taking the engineering philosophy of the 400, the balance between accessibility and engagement, and extending it to a displacement that sits between the 400 and the 650 in the range. The introduction of the new Ninja 500 reflects Kawasaki's recognition that the 400cc displacement class, while excellent, does not serve all of the new riders market in all regulatory environments, and that a 500cc machine positions the company in a gap that the 400 and 650 leave between them. The new Ninja 500's development, building on the engineering foundation of the 400 rather than starting from a different mechanical basis, reflects the engineering efficiency of building a product range from shared platforms, which is the same principle that underlies the Ninja 650, Z650, Versus 650, and Eliminator 500's shared engine lineage. The Kawasaki Versus X300, a small displacement adventure machine using the Ninja 300's parallel twin engine in a raised adventure-styled chassis, served a specific market of newer riders who wanted adventure motorcycle credentials without the physical demands of the larger machines that defined the category's upper tier. The Versus X300's seat height, suspension travel, and ground clearance provided genuine light-duty off-road capability in a machine whose engine output and weight were manageable for riders who were still developing their skill rather than already confident on demanding terrain. The machine reflected Kawasaki's understanding that the adventure category serves a spectrum of riders whose needs range from the occasional gravel road to sustained off-road travel, and that designing machines for the less extreme end of this spectrum without compromising the essential quality of the engineering is a form of market service that the category requires. The Versus X300's presence in the lineup, brief as it was before being updated to the Versus X300 ABS, showed that Kawasaki was willing to invest in the entry level of a growing category with the same engineering seriousness it applied to the category's more profitable upper tier. The Kawasaki GPZ 1100, produced from 1983 to 1985, bridged the gap between the Z-series machines that had defined the brand through the 1970s and the liquid-cooled performance era that the GPZ 900R would inaugurate in 1984. The GPZ 1100 used an air-cooled inline-4 engine in a chassis that was significantly more refined in its handling than the Z-series machines it followed, reflecting the development in chassis engineering that had occurred through the early 1980s as Japanese manufacturers began applying the lessons of Grand Prix chassis development to their production machines. The GPZ 1100 was a fast and capable machine by the standards of its moment, and its role in bridging 2 eras of Kawasaki engineering is more significant than its brief production run might suggest. It is the machine that demonstrated to Kawasaki's engineers that a large displacement production motorcycle could be made to handle with genuine precision rather than with the vagueness that the Z series machines had produced, and this demonstration prepared the engineering team for the more ambitious handling brief of the GPZ-900R that followed it. The GPZ-1100 is a machine that receives little historical attention because it was superseded quickly by something more significant, but the development work it represented was essential to the success of what came after it. The Kawasaki Ninja ZX-7R, produced from 1996 to 2003 as the successor to the ZXR 750 in the company's superbike racing lineage, was a machine whose road-going qualities were compromised to a degree by the demands of its competition homologation brief, and whose reputation among road riders reflects this compromise honestly. The ZX-7R was designed to be raced in the World Superbike Championship, and the specific chassis geometry and suspension calibration that this requirement imposed produced a machine that rewarded precise, committed riding technique and was less forgiving of imprecision than the ZX-6R or ZX-9R that flanked it in the lineup. The road riders who bought ZX-7Rs in the late 1990s were riders who understood this character and chose it specifically, finding in the machine's demands a form of engagement that the more accessible machines in the range did not provide. The ZX-7R's legacy in Kawasaki's product history is a specific and interesting one. It is a machine that succeeded in its primary purpose, which was homologating a competitive superbike while providing a road experience that was challenging enough to be genuinely polarizing. Some riders found in it exactly what they were looking for. Others found something that exceeded what they could comfortably manage. Both responses were appropriate to what the machine was. The Kawasaki KX250F, the 4-stroke 250cc motocross machine, has been a consistently competitive platform in the AMA 250cc motocross class across multiple competitive seasons, winning championships with Eli Tomac among others, and demonstrating that Kawasaki's off-road engineering capability extends to the highly competitive 250cc class as well as the 450cc class, where the company's factory racing investment is most visible. The KX250F's development across successive generations reflects the same iterative dialogue between factory riders and engineers that produces the ZX-10R's competitive capability, applied to the specific demands of the lighter class, where weight, suspension precision, and engine response in the low to mid-rev range are the primary competitive determinants. The factory riders who developed the KX250F's specification are competing for world championships on machines whose mechanical qualities directly determine the outcomes of races decided by tenths of seconds across 35-minute motos, and the feedback they provide is precise enough to drive specific engineering changes rather than general direction. The KX250F is one of the most rigorously developed machines in Kawasaki's current range, and the racing results that validate its development are the most directly competitive in any class the company participates in. The Kawasaki ZRX 1100 and ZRX 1200, produced from 1997 to 2007, were machines designed explicitly as visual and mechanical tributes to the Z1000R Eddie Lawson replica that Kawasaki had produced in the early 1980s, themselves tributes to the Z1000 race machines that Lawson had campaigned in AMA Superbike competition. The ZRX machines used a large displacement inline-4 engine in a retro-style chassis with a half fairing referenced from the original Eddie Lawson replica, providing a visual connection to one of the most celebrated chapters of Kawasaki's American racing history. The machines were well received in markets where the connection to American superbike racing history resonated. particularly in the United States, where Lawson's championship wins had been seen live by the riders who were now at the stage of life where they could afford to buy what they had admired in their youth. The ZRX series is a specific example of how racing history generates commercial value decades after the original events, through the emotional connections it creates in the people who witnessed it. And Kawasaki's willingness to honor this connection through a genuine product rather than through superficial licensing is one of the more honest expressions of brand heritage in the company's product history. The Kawasaki Ninja 1000, the predecessor to the current Ninja 1000 SX, was one of the first machines in the sport touring category to offer a comprehensive electronics package as standard equipment rather than as an option or upgrade, with traction control, multiple power modes, and a quick shifter fitted to the base machine at a price point that made the electronics accessible to buyers whose budget was not at the premium end of the segment. The decision to include the full electronics package as standard rather than as a paid option reflected Kawasaki's understanding that the electronics were not convenience features but components of the machine's fundamental performance character, and that packaging them as optional additions would produce a machine that felt incomplete without them. This decision set a standard for the segment that subsequent machines from other manufacturers were required to meet, and the Ninja 1000's role in normalizing comprehensive electronics as standard equipment in the sport touring category is a specific and documented contribution to the development of production motorcycle specification standards. Subscribe to the Sleepy Rider channel and keep these long rides through the things you love in your regular rotation. The channel is here whenever the night needs filling with something worth knowing. The Kawasaki ZX6R 636, a displacement variant of the ZX6R that used a 636cc engine rather than the 599cc unit of the standard ZX6R, was produced specifically for markets where the World Supersport regulations did not apply and where the additional displacement's torque benefit was a commercial rather than competitive consideration. The 636cc engine's additional displacement produced more mid-range torque than the 599cc unit, making the machine more accessible and more satisfying in the everyday road riding conditions that most ZX6R buyers experienced most of the time. The existence of both the 599 and 636 versions of the ZX6R simultaneously reflects Kawasaki's understanding that the sports 600 market contains within it distinct subpopulations of buyers. The competition-focused buyer for whom the standard class compliance of the 599 matters, and the road-focused buyer for whom the torque benefit of the 636 is more relevant than class eligibility. Offering both versions rather than choosing one for the entire market is a recognition of the market's actual composition rather than an assumption that all buyers in a category have identical requirements. The Kawasaki ZH2, the supercharged naked bike, represents in its visual character one of the more interesting aesthetic expressions of the supercharger's presence in a motorcycle engine. Where the Faired H2 conceals much of the engine behind bodywork, the naked ZH2 presents the engine as a primary visual element, and the supercharger's housing and the plumbing associated with its intake and charge cooling systems are visible as part of the machine's visual character. Kawasaki's designers have integrated these mechanical elements into the visual design rather than attempting to hide them, treating the supercharger's presence as a statement of the machine's mechanical content rather than as an industrial detail to be concealed. This design honesty, which allows the mechanical complexity of the supercharged engine to be visible and legible as part of the machine's identity is consistent with the broader Kawasaki design philosophy that treats engineering content as a legitimate and valued visual element rather than as something that requires aesthetic disguise. The Kawasaki Z900 RS Cafe, a variant of the Z900 RS that applies the cafe racer aesthetic to the same mechanical platform, is an example of the same design intelligence that Kawasaki applied to the W800 Cafe and Street editions, using a single mechanical platform to serve distinct aesthetic communities within the neo-retro market rather than producing a single compromise design that partially serves all of them. The Z900 RS Cafe's distinguishing features, a small bikini fairing, a flatter seat, low bars, and details that reference the British cafe racer tradition rather than the more broadly referenced Japanese motorcycle tradition of the standard Z900 RS, produce a machine that is specifically appealing to the segment of the neo-retro market that finds the cafe racer aesthetic more compelling than the standard roadster aesthetic. The mechanical foundation is identical, the riding experience is nearly identical, and the difference is entirely in the aesthetic expression of a shared mechanical reality. This approach is more respectful of the market's actual diversity than producing a single design and expecting it to serve all segments equally well. The Kawasaki Ninja H2's tires represent one of the most specific and least discussed engineering challenges of producing a 310 horsepower production motorcycle. At the power levels the H2R generates, the rear tire operates under traction and heat demands that exceed what standard production tires are designed to manage. And Kawasaki worked with Bridgestone to develop a specific tire compound and construction for the H2R that could manage the specific combination of acceleration forces, cornering loads, and thermal cycles that the machine generates in competitive use. The H2 road machine uses tires that are less extreme in their specification than the H2Rs, but that are still specifically selected for the machine rather than taken from the standard tire range that most production motorcycles use. The tire engineering that the H2 required opened a development dialogue between Kawasaki and Bridgestone about what production tire engineering needed to achieve to support the next generation of extremely high-power street motorcycles, and the knowledge generated through this dialogue has applications beyond the H2 family in the development of future tire technology. The Kawasaki Eliminate series, in its current form, the Eliminator 500 of 2023, revisits the cruiser format with a machine whose engine and mechanical specification draw from the current Ninja 400 and 500 platform rather than from the older cruiser-specific engines that the original Eliminator series used. This represents a specific engineering philosophy using the best available mechanical platform rather than a platform developed specifically for the format, trusting that good engineering translates across aesthetic categories rather than requiring separate development for each. The Eliminator 500's parallel twin engine, with its specific torque character and sound signature, produces a riding experience in the cruiser format that is different from what a V-twin engine would produce and that some buyers will find more engaging. Kawasaki is not apologetic about this difference. The machine is honest about using the engine it uses, and the riding character that engine produces in the cruiser's ergonomic format is genuine rather than simulated. The Kawasaki KLE 500, produced from 1991 to 2007, was an early example of the adventure motorcycle concept applied to a parallel twin engine in a market where the segment had not yet acquired its current cultural prominence. The KLE 500 preceded the formal establishment of the adventure motorcycle as a major commercial category and served the dual sport touring role with a competence that was not widely recognized at the time, but that the subsequent growth of the adventure segment has made more historically legible. The KLE 500's specific combination of parallel twin character, raised chassis, and practical touring capability anticipated what would become the most commercially successful category in the global motorcycle market 2 decades after its introduction. Kawasaki's early engagement with this format, while not commercially transformative at the time, established engineering foundations in adventure-oriented chassis design and engine calibration that informed the development of the Versys series when the market was ready for it. The Kawasaki Z900, the current middleweight naked machine that positions the company in the most contested segment of the global motorcycle market, uses a 948cc inline-4 engine producing approximately 125 horsepower in a machine that weighs around 212 kilograms. These numbers produce a riding experience of the kind that Kawasaki has always prioritized: immediate, responsive, and sufficiently powerful that the rider's engagement with the machine's capability is always meaningful rather than aspirational. The Z900's chassis, whose geometry reflects the development work done through the ZX10R and Z1000 programs applied to a middleweight brief, provides a handling precision that experienced riders consistently identify as one of the machine's most valued qualities. The Z900 is the machine through which most riders who come to Kawasaki from the naked middleweight segment first experience the specific character that defines the brand, and the quality of that first experience is a significant determinant of whether they stay within the brand for subsequent purchases. Kawasaki has calibrated the Z900 with an awareness of this role, producing a machine that represents the brand's engineering values honestly at the price and displacement level where most new Kawasaki relationships begin. The quiet has settled fully now, and the facts have been traveling through it steadily since the beginning of the night. Kawasaki's story is not a simple one, but it has a consistent thread running through it that makes it easy to follow across the years. The thread of choosing the more capable solution when a simpler one would have been commercially adequate, and of engineering that choice to a standard that makes its superiority clear in use. This thread runs from the Z1 of 1973 through the H2 of today, and it runs through every machine between them that carried the green paintwork and the Kawasaki name into the world. The machines are different in every dimension of their specification. The thread is the same in all of them. The Kawasaki Ninja 400 was tested against the full range of competing machines in its class by every major motorcycle publication in every market where it is sold, and the consistent outcome of these tests was that the Ninja 400 was the best machine in the class. This consistent outcome across different markets, different test riders, and different test conditions is a more meaningful validation than the outcome of a single test in a single context, because the consistency itself is evidence of a fundamental quality rather than a circumstance-specific advantage. The specific dimensions of the Ninja 400's superiority, as articulated across these tests, were its chassis precision relative to competing machines, its engine character in the portion of the power range that road use most frequently exercises, and a quality of its braking feel and feedback through the front brake lever. These are not dimensions where specification numbers alone determine the outcome. They are dimensions where calibration and development investment produce the result. And the Ninja 400's consistent superiority across them reflects calibration and development investment made by people who understood what the machine needed to be. The Kawasaki Versys 1000 SE, the premium specification version of the large displacement adventure touring machine, uses Skyhook semi-active suspension as its differentiating feature, automatically adjusting damping rates in real time based on road surface inputs and riding conditions rather than relying on fixed damping settings chosen by the rider before the ride begins. Skyhook suspension, which takes its name from the theoretical ideal of a suspension attached to a fixed point above the machine rather than to the machine itself, continuously adjusts both rebound and compression damping to provide a consistent wheel contact force regardless of surface variation, which improves both comfort and handling stability simultaneously rather than requiring compromise between them. The technology was developed in the automotive context and adapted for motorcycle application by suspension engineers who understood the specific challenges of applying electronically controlled damping to a machine with only 2 contact patches and a lean angle that varies continuously. Through corners, the Versys 1000 SE's implementation of Skyhook provides a riding experience on varied surfaces that experienced riders describe as qualitatively different from fixed damping suspension in ways that become most apparent on the imperfect road surfaces that adventure touring machines encounter in their intended use. The relationship between Kawasaki's motorcycle division and Kawasaki Heavy Industries' aerospace and defense divisions has produced specific engineering capabilities in material science and precision manufacturing that are visible in the motorcycle products in less obvious but real ways. The titanium alloy expertise that Kawasaki's aerospace division has developed for aircraft structural applications has informed the selection and processing of titanium in motorcycle components, where the weight-to-strength ratio justifies the material cost. The precision machining capabilities developed for aerospace specification engine components have established manufacturing tolerance standards that the motorcycle division applies to its own production, and the quality management systems developed for safety-critical aerospace production provide the framework within which Kawasaki's motorcycle production quality is managed. These connections between the parent company's highest specification engineering activities and the motorcycle division's production standards are part of what makes Kawasaki's manufacturing quality what it is, and part of why the motorcycle division's engineering culture is different from that of manufacturers whose entire organizational scope is defined by the motorcycle. Kawasaki's approach to color management across the product range, which has been more sophisticated than casual observation might suggest, reflects a genuine understanding of how color communicates brand identity and product positioning within the range. The lime green that defines Kawasaki's competitive identity appears across the Ninja Sports line as the primary identity color. The darker, more matte green that appears on adventure machines reflects a different interpretation of the color that aligns with the aesthetics of the adventure segment without abandoning the brand connection. The metallic green that appears on the W800 and Z900 RS in certain model year colors references the historical Kawasaki green tradition with a patina appropriate for the neo-retro aesthetic. These are not accidental color decisions. They reflect a deliberate color strategy in which the core brand color is adapted for different product contexts while maintaining sufficient continuity to be recognizable as belonging to the same family. The management of a single color across this range of aesthetic applications is a specific kind of design intelligence that most observers register without analyzing, and a consistency of the Kawasaki green across the full diversity of the product range is one of the more sophisticated aspects of the company's brand presentation. The Kawasaki Ninja 650R, which appeared briefly as the faired version of the ER6 platform in certain markets before the model naming was rationalized, is one of the more confusingly named machines in Kawasaki's product history, a consequence of the company's market-by-market naming approach that occasionally produces designations that are difficult to track across geographies. The rationalization of Kawasaki's naming conventions that occurred through the 2010s, consolidating the various regional model names into the Ninja, Z, Vulcan, Versus, and Eliminator families, simplified the customer experience of navigating the product range without changing the fundamental product offering. The naming rationalization also simplified the company's own communication about its products, which had become genuinely complicated by the variety of market-specific names that had accumulated over decades of regional sales strategy. The Ninja name in particular, whose global recognition makes it the most valuable naming asset in Kawasaki's portfolio, was systematically extended to cover the full sports bike range from the Ninja 125 to the Ninja H2, creating a clearer family identity than the previous mixture of Ninja and non-Ninja names for machines in the same performance tradition had provided. The Kawasaki racing heritage in the AMA Superbike Series, where Eddie Lawson won 4 championships from 1981 to 1984 on KZ1000-based machines before moving to Yamaha for his Grand Prix career, established a specifically American dimension of the brand's competitive identity that informed the ZRX series and has continued to inform the Z900 RS's American market presence through the historical associations that the original American Superbike era carries for riders of a specific generation. Lawson's championships were won on machines that were recognizably related to the production Z1000 that ordinary riders could purchase, and the connection between the champion's machine and the road machine was close enough to be legible to riders who understood both. This connection between production machine and race machine, which Kawasaki has maintained through subsequent generations of its performance lineup, is the foundation of the brand's performance credibility in the market, and the riders who choose Kawasaki for its performance heritage are choosing in part the legacy of those AMA championships won on machines that their Z1000 or ZX10R is related to through a traceable line of engineering development. The night has been long and generous, and the facts have traveled through it at their own pace, each one adding something to the picture of an organization whose commitment to engineering excellence has been remarkable for its consistency across more than half a century of motorcycle production. The green machines that Kawasaki puts into the world are not simply fast. They are honest in a specific engineering sense, which means they deliver what their capability suggests they deliver and ask of the rider what their capability requires the rider to provide. This honesty, which shows up in the handling of the Ninja 400 and the power of the H2 and the character of the Z900 RS and the durability of the KLR 650, is the common thread through all of them, and it is the most durable thing that any manufacturer can establish as its identity. The Kawasaki ZX4R, a non-race specification version of the ZX4RR, introduced for markets where the full race specifications price was a barrier to the small displacement 4-cylinder market, uses the same 399cc inline-4 engine in a slightly less exclusively track-focused specification that makes the 4-cylinder character accessible to a broader range of buyers. The ZX4R's existence alongside the ZX4RR reflects Kawasaki's understanding that the market for small displacement 4-cylinder motorcycles is not exclusively composed of dedicated track day riders, and that the engine's specific character, its high revving nature, its specific sound signature, and the engaging quality of its power delivery at high RPM is valuable to road riders who will never visit a circuit as well as to those who will. The ZX4R is a machine for the rider who wants the four-cylinder experience in a small, light package, and who is willing to live with the ergonomics and power delivery character that the configuration requires in exchange for the specific quality it provides. That this rider exists in sufficient numbers to justify a second model built around the same engine reflects the depth of the market for performance-focused small displacement machinery that Kawasaki has identified and is serving with a range of options that no other manufacturer currently matches. The night settles around the last of the facts, and the Kawasaki story rests where it landed. Large and specific and full of the kind of detail that rewards patience. The machines are out there now, green and quiet, and parked in the spaces where their riders left them, carrying in their construction the accumulated attention of engineers in Akashi who have spent careers making things correctly. This is what the channel is here to do. Carry the stories of these machines to the people who find them worth knowing at the hour when knowing something quietly is exactly what the night calls for. Subscribe to the Sleepy Rider channel. These rides are here every time you need them, and the engine is always warm. Rest well. The Kawasaki W800 Street, with its higher bars and more relaxed riding position compared to the standard W800's slightly more committed ergonomics, demonstrates how the same mechanical platform can produce a meaningfully different riding character through ergonomic changes alone, without touching the engine or chassis geometry. The street version's handlebar position places the rider in a more upright stance that reduces the front wheel loading under braking and shifts more weight to the rear, which produces a different front-to-rear balance in the steering and braking that experienced riders perceive as a genuine character difference rather than simply a comfort difference. Kawasaki's attention to this level of riding experience nuance in a machine whose primary identity is not performance but aesthetic correctness reflects an engineering culture that refuses to treat any product category as exempt from the kind of careful calibration that produces a genuinely good riding experience rather than a merely adequate one. The W800 family is not designed to impress with specification. It is designed to reward with riding quality, and the distinction between the street and standard versions serves the riders who can perceive the difference that ergonomics make to the riding character at the speeds and in the context that the W800's engine suggests. The Kawasaki Ninja 650 in its 2017 redesign underwent what Kawasaki's design team described as a transformation from a capable but visually conservative machine to one whose styling was explicitly intended to communicate the Ninja family's performance heritage at first impression rather than requiring the rider to look closely. The redesigned machine's sharper lines, more aggressive front fairing, and overall visual tone that referenced the ZX10R's design language more directly than the previous generation had done produced a machine that attracted buyers who had previously looked at the Ninja 650 and moved on to something that looked more exciting. The change in visual presentation was not accompanied by significant mechanical change in the 2017 model year, which confirms that the design revision was a response to a specific commercial insight. The machine's mechanical qualities were already excellent, and the limiting factor in its commercial performance was the visual communication of those qualities rather than the qualities themselves. This is a specific kind of commercial intelligence about the motorcycle market that not all manufacturers demonstrate with the same clarity, and the Ninja 650's subsequent improvement in commercial performance following the redesign validated the insight. The Kawasaki KLX450R, the enduro-specific version of the KLX platform, differs from the KLX450SR street legal version in ways that reflect the specific demands of off-road competition use versus the demands of road legal operation. The enduro version uses a non-street legal engine tune and suspension calibration that would be impractical for road use, but that provide a specific performance capability in the competition environment that the street legal version cannot approach. The existence of both versions reflects Kawasaki's understanding that the off-road market contains riders who compete at the highest levels of the sport and riders who use the same type of machine for recreational and practical purposes, and that serving both requires separate product specifications rather than a compromise that partially serves each. The engineering required to produce each version correctly is the same engineering culture applied to different performance briefs, and the quality of each version reflects the fact that neither brief was treated as secondary to the other. The Kawasaki H2 carbon body panels are produced through a manufacturing process that Kawasaki developed specifically for the material. Rather than using standard automotive carbon fiber production methods that were not optimized for the specific requirements of motorcycle body panel production, the specific challenges of producing motorcycle carbon fiber panels, which require different thicknesses, different fiber orientations, and different finishing processes than automotive panels, because they are exposed to different loads and different visual scrutiny from different directions, required development work that produced not just the panels themselves, but the manufacturing knowledge, applicable to future carbon fiber components across the product range. The H2 Carbon's body panels are the first production outcome of this manufacturing development, and the subsequent use of carbon fiber in other Kawasaki products, including race team components, will benefit from the knowledge accumulated through the H2 Carbon production program. The investment in developing correct carbon fiber manufacturing for the H2 Carbon is not just an investment in a single model. It is an investment in a manufacturing capability that will be applied across multiple subsequent products. The Kawasaki Ninja 400's triumph in comparative tests against motorcycles including the CBR 500R, MT-03, Duke 390, and other class competitors reflected specific technical advantages in three dimensions that appeared consistently across independent tests: the steering precision of the chassis under varied cornering conditions, the quality of the front brake's feel and feedback, and the specific character of the engine's power delivery in the 6,000 to 9,000 RPM range that road riding most frequently exercises. Each of these advantages was the outcome of specific engineering decisions rather than of superior specification. The chassis geometry that produced the handling advantage was the result of development work rather than of a larger budget. The brake feel was the result of careful calibration of the ABS system and the master cylinder specification, and the engine character was the result of fuel injection mapping and cam timing choices rather than of inherently superior internal dimensions. The Ninja 400's dominance of its class was earned through engineering quality applied with precision, which is the most durable form of competitive advantage available to any manufacturer in any market. The Kawasaki Z650 RS, introduced in 2021 as a retro-style derivative of the Z650 platform, applied the neo-retro design approach to the middleweight naked class in a way that referenced the Z650 original of 1976 with sufficient visual accuracy to be immediately recognizable as a family member while maintaining the mechanical modernity that the contemporary market requires. The Z650 RS's commercial reception, which was positive enough to establish it as a significant part of Kawasaki's middleweight sales, reflected the same market dynamic that the Z900 RS demonstrated at larger displacement. The neo-retro aesthetic in a mechanically credible machine serves a specific and substantial rider community that values both the visual tradition and the mechanical quality, and that is willing to pay the premium that both require. The Z650 RS added a middleweight option to the neo-retro range that expanded the segment's accessibility beyond the Z900 RS's larger displacement and higher price, serving riders for whom the Z900 RS's size or cost was a barrier while maintaining the design quality that makes the range credible. The Kawasaki Versys 650, in its current long-term form as one of the most comprehensively verified do-it-all motorcycles in the market, has developed through successive model years into a machine whose versatility is the outcome of very specific engineering decisions about chassis geometry, suspension calibration, and engine tuning, rather than of the averaging of performance across dimensions. That pure versatility might suggest. The Versys 650's chassis geometry, which combines a seat height appropriate for the machine's adventure proportions with a wheelbase and steering geometry that provides the agility expected of a 650cc machine in urban and mountain road conditions, required specific choices that excluded other possible geometries. The engine's calibration, which emphasizes the mid-range torque delivery that versatile road riding most frequently requires over the high RPM performance that sports use rewards, reflects a similar set of deliberate choices. The result of these choices is a machine that is genuinely versatile rather than merely capable, a distinction that reveals itself across a full season of varied riding rather than in the specific test conditions that comparative reviews describe. The Kawasaki Ninja H2's frame, which uses a trellis structure fabricated from high-tensile steel, is visible through the machine's bodywork in a way that makes the structure's engineering a visual element of the machine's design. The trellis frame's diagonal members are arranged in a pattern that reflects the specific stiffness distribution required to manage the forces generated by the supercharged engine and the cornering loads of the machine's performance brief. And the visibility of this structure provides a visual communication of the machine's engineering commitment that most production motorcycles, whose frames are hidden behind bodywork, do not offer. Kawasaki's decision to make the H2's frame visible was a design choice that required the frame to be visually coherent as an aesthetic element in addition to being structurally adequate as an engineering element, and the result is a machine whose visual character is partly defined by the honest display of a structural member that serves both purposes simultaneously. This approach to engineering visibility as aesthetic value is consistent with the broader Kawasaki design philosophy and is one of the specific things that makes the H2 visually distinctive from the machines that compete with it. The Kawasaki J300 and J125 scooters, produced for the European and Asian markets, represent Kawasaki's engagement with urban personal mobility at a scale that the brand's performance motorcycle identity would not predict. The J-Series scooters use conventional CV transmissions, underseat storage, and practical ergonomics in machines that make no claim to the performance heritage of the Ninja family. Their design reflects the specific requirements of urban commuting rather than the engineering ambitions of the performance segment, and their calibration for fuel economy, ease of use, and practical range reflects priorities that the Ninja's customer would not recognize as primary. The J-Series exists because Kawasaki's commercial strategy includes the urban commuter market in the geographies where scooters are the dominant form of personal transportation, and because the brand's manufacturing and distribution infrastructure can serve this market without significant incremental investment. The J Series is not central to Kawasaki's identity in the markets where performance is the primary brand association, but in the markets where scooters represent the primary category of motorized personal transport, Kawasaki's presence in the segment is commercially significant and strategically appropriate. The Kawasaki KX series' dominance in Japanese domestic motocross over extended periods reflects the specific depth of technical expertise that Kawasaki's Japanese off-road engineering team has accumulated through decades of competition development at the domestic level as well as at the international level that receives more external attention. Japanese domestic motocross competition is intensely technical and intensely competitive. With a culture of precision machine preparation and rider development that produces engineering insights applicable to competition at the international level. The knowledge that Kawasaki's KX development team has accumulated through Japanese domestic motocross competition is part of the engineering foundation that makes the KX450 internationally competitive. And the feedback from domestic factory riders who compete in the Japanese series informs development decisions in parallel with the feedback from international factory riders. This parallel development input from multiple competition contexts produces a machine that is well developed for a broader range of conditions than single context development would achieve. The Kawasaki Ninja 300R, the ABS-equipped version of the Ninja 300, added anti-lock braking to a machine whose chassis and engine were already well regarded in the small displacement sports class, completing the machine's specification in a way that made it the most comprehensively equipped entry-level sports bike in the market at its price point. The decision to add ABS to the Ninja 300 reflected Kawasaki's assessment that the insurance and safety benefits of ABS in the entry-level segment were significant enough to justify the development investment and the price premium required to offer it, and that riders in this segment who were given the choice between ABS and non-ABS versions would choose ABS when the price difference was within the range of their budget. This assessment proved accurate, and the Ninja 300R became the preferred specification in markets where ABS availability and pricing made the choice commercially viable. The Ninja 300R's contribution to Kawasaki's market position in the entry-level segment was not just the machine's own commercial success, but the demonstration of the brand's commitment to providing complete and safe machines at the entry level of the market, which influenced the perception of the brand among new riders whose first Kawasaki experience was the Ninja 300R. The Kawasaki factory racing team's approach to the World Superbike season differs from most manufacturer factory team approaches in the degree to which the race team's engineering developments are implemented quickly into the production machine's specification when they prove applicable. The feedback loop between the kart race team and the production ZX-10R engineering team is active and rapid enough that developments proven in competition are assessed for production application within the same season rather than waiting for the next model year revision. This rapid feedback loop produces production machines that reflect current racing knowledge rather than knowledge from a previous competitive period. And the rate at which Kawasaki's production ZX-10R improvements have tracked its racing program's developments is higher than most manufacturer programs achieve. The result is a production machine whose specification reflects the most current competitive knowledge available, and whose owners benefit from the race team's development investment more directly than the owners of machines developed through a less integrated process. The Kawasaki ZX-10R's connection to the World Superbike Championship goes beyond the obvious commercial association of race wins with product credibility. The specific engineering developments that 6 years of championship competition drove in the ZX-10R produced a machine whose chassis geometry, suspension setup, and electronics calibration were substantively different at the end of Jonathan Rea's championship run from what they had been at the beginning. Each of these differences can be traced to specific competitive outcomes. Specific circuit feedback from specific riders, and specific engineering hypotheses that were tested and confirmed or rejected across 6 seasons of intensive competition. The production machine that benefited from these developments was not simply a machine bearing a champion's name. It was a machine whose mechanical qualities had been specifically shaped by the demands of competing for 6 championships under the most intense competitive scrutiny in the production-based racing world. The riders who buy ZX-10Rs today are riding machines whose mechanical character was formed in part by the competitive pressure of 6 world championships. And the specific riding qualities they value in the machine are partly the outcome of that pressure applied consistently across 6 seasons of development. The Kawasaki GPZ900R's role in Top Gun was not a product of any Kawasaki marketing effort. The film's production team chose the machine because it was available, because its styling was appropriate to the film's aesthetic, and because the California Highway Patrol's use of Kawasaki motorcycles meant that the machines had a legitimate presence in the film's setting. The commercial outcome for Kawasaki, which was substantial and sustained, was the consequence of an alignment between the film's imagery and the machine's visual character that neither party had planned for the specific marketing outcome it produced. This kind of unplanned commercial windfall occurs rarely in any industry. But when it occurs for a motorcycle brand through a cultural artifact as widely viewed as a summer blockbuster film, the effect can be long-lasting enough to shape a brand's identity in a market for decades. The ninja identity that the GPZ900R established in the American market in 1986 is still contributing to the commercial success of machines carrying the ninja name nearly 40 years later, which is the specific mechanism through which a single cultural moment generates commercial value across a time span that dwarfs the value of the original event itself. The Kawasaki Company's engineering workforce, particularly the senior engineers who have spent careers developing the major platform technologies, including the H2's supercharger and the ZX-10R's competition electronics, represents a form of institutional knowledge that cannot be replicated quickly or completely by recruitment, and that constitutes one of the company's most significant competitive assets. The specific understanding of how to design a centrifugal supercharger for a motorcycle application, the specific knowledge of how to calibrate competition-derived traction control for both racing and road use, and the specific experience of developing a chassis through 6 world championships are knowledge forms that live in specific individuals and in the documentation and institutional memory they have created. And the quality of Kawasaki's future products depends on the retention and application of this knowledge as much as on any technology investment or commercial decision. The engineers who built the H2 are the same engineers who will shape what comes after it, and the continuity of engineering knowledge across product generations is one of the things that makes Kawasaki's engineering culture what it is. The Kawasaki Ninja 1000 SX represents the culmination of a design and engineering approach that Kawasaki has refined across multiple generations of the platform, and the current machine's level of completeness in terms of equipment, electronics, and riding quality reflects this cumulative refinement. The machine's seat, which Kawasaki specifically redesigned for the current generation to provide better support across full-day riding distances illustrates the kind of specific and patient refinement that transforms a capable machine into a complete one. The electronics package, which has been updated across successive model years to reflect the calibration learnings of both competitive use and extended customer experience, reflects the same process of patient refinement applied to the dimension of the machine's character that most directly determines the quality of the riding experience across the full range of conditions the Ninja 1000 SX encounters. The result of this patient refinement across multiple generations is a machine that experienced riders consistently describe as one of the most complete sport touring propositions available regardless of brand. And that recommendation from riders who have direct experience with the alternatives is the most meaningful form of validation that any manufacturer's product can receive. The engineering culture that Kawasaki Heavy Industries has maintained across its motorcycle division, its aerospace division, its marine division, and its rolling stock division is not easily described in a single characteristic, but is recognizable across all of these different product categories through a shared unwillingness to accept solutions that are adequate when more capable solutions are available within the engineering and commercial constraints of each context. The motorcycle that goes faster than it needs to go for commercial purposes, the aircraft component that is built to a tighter tolerance than the specification requires, the ship that is constructed to a corrosion-resistant standard beyond what the operating environment demands. These are the outcomes of an engineering culture that treats the pursuit of capability as an intrinsic value rather than as a means to a commercial end. The motorcycles that carry the Kawasaki name are the consumer products that make this engineering culture most directly visible to the people outside the organization, and the character of those products, their performance focus, their mechanical honesty, and their consistent willingness to provide more capability than the market strictly requires is the most legible expression of the engineering culture that produces them. The road has traveled a long way tonight, and the engine has run steadily through all of it. The Kawasaki story is the story of a company that began in heavy industry and found in the motorcycle a specific and continuing opportunity to demonstrate what disciplined, ambitious engineering can produce when it is applied consistently to the problem of making a machine that carries a human being as fast and as well as engineering knowledge allows. The machines that have come out of this effort across more than 50 years include some of the most technically significant production motorcycles ever built, some of the most commercially successful machines in their respective market segments, and some of the most genuinely engaging riding experiences available anywhere in the world of motorized two-wheelers. The thread that runs through all of them is the same thread: the commitment to engineering as a practice that justifies itself through the quality of its outcomes rather than through its conformity to what the market has previously accepted. Subscribe to the Sleepy Rider channel and stay on this road. There are more machines, more stories, and more nights like this one ahead. The engine keeps running as long as you need it to. Rest now. The green machine will be there in the morning. The Kawasaki Z400, introduced in 2019 using the Ninja 400's parallel twin engine in a naked configuration, gave riders who preferred the naked bike format access to the engineering qualities that had made the Ninja 400 the class leader in its faired form. The Z400's chassis geometry was adjusted slightly from the Ninja 400's to suit the upright riding position and the engine's character. Already one of the most praised in the 400cc class, translated intact into the naked format where the absence of the fairing made the machine's lightness and handling precision more immediately perceptible. The Z400's commercial reception confirmed that the Ninja 400's excellence was not dependent on the faired format, and that the parallel twin platform's fundamental qualities serve the naked brief as effectively as the sports brief. This transferability of platform quality across aesthetic formats is a function of the platform's engineering correctness rather than of the specific configuration in which it is first expressed, and the Ninja Z400 family's ability to serve two distinct rider communities from a single mechanical foundation is one of the more efficient applications of platform engineering in the current small displacement segment. The Kawasaki Teryx, the company's side-by-side off-road vehicle, demonstrates the same engineering values in the four-wheel recreation vehicle space that the brute force demonstrates in the ADV space, and that the Ninja demonstrates in the sport motorcycle space. The Teryx uses a 783cc parallel twin engine, a mechanical specification that reflects Kawasaki's commitment to genuine performance in whatever category the product occupies, in a chassis calibrated for the specific combination of trail capability and driver confidence that the recreational side-by-side market's customers require. The Teryx's commercial success in the side-by-side segment, which is highly competitive with established participants including Polaris and Can-Am, reflects the degree to which Kawasaki's engineering culture translates across product categories to produce competitive outcomes wherever it is applied. The company that builds world championship motorcycles builds world-class ATVs and side-by-sides from the same engineering foundation, and the customers of both categories benefit from this consistency. Kawasaki's investment in electronic suspension technology, which appears in the Versys 1000 SE's Skyhook system and in the factory race team's development of active suspension for the ZX-10R, represents the company's engagement with a technology whose potential to transform the riding experience of production motorcycles is still being realized. Electronic suspension that adjusts in real time to road surface inputs, rider inputs, and machine dynamics can theoretically provide handling quality that exceeds what fixed-setting suspension can achieve across the range of conditions that a road machine encounters, because the optimal suspension settings for a high-speed sweeper are different from the optimal settings for a sharp corner. Approached from a rough surface, and fixed settings require compromise between these different optima. The technical challenges of implementing electronic suspension that actually provides this theoretical benefit on a production motorcycle, including the sensor quality, the control algorithm sophistication, and the actuator speed required to make adjustments faster than the events they are responding to, have been progressively addressed through both the production Versys application and the racing development program, and the quality of the riding experience provided by the current Skyhook system suggests that the gap between theoretical potential and production reality has been substantially closed. The Kawasaki Mule series of utility vehicles, which has been produced since 1988 in a range of configurations for agricultural, construction, and recreation uses, is the product category through which Kawasaki maintains its presence in the commercial and light industrial vehicle market that the parent company's broader operations serve. The Mule's specific combination of cargo capacity, terrain capability, and low-speed tractability reflects an understanding of working vehicle requirements that is fundamentally different from the performance focus of the motorcycle range, and the engineering that produces a mule calibrated correctly for its working environment is as specific and as demanding in its own terms as the engineering that produces a ZX-10R calibrated for circuit racing. The Mule is not glamorous and does not appear in motorcycle enthusiast publications. It works in fields and construction sites and resort grounds in conditions that would destroy machines not designed for the specific demands of sustained low-speed working use, It is exactly what it needs to be for the people who use it, which is the criterion by which any engineering achievement should be measured. The Kawasaki Ninja 650's parallel twin engine, in common with the Z650, Versus 650, and Eliminator 500, uses a 180-degree crank firing order that produces a smooth and linear power delivery different from the 270-degree crank used by Yamaha's CP2 engine and increasingly common across the industry. The 180-degree firing order, in which both pistons reach top dead center simultaneously, produces a more even power delivery without the slight unevenness that the 270-degree crank's firing interval creates. And Kawasaki's decision to retain the 180-degree crank across its parallel twin platform family, while competitors have moved to 270-degree configurations, reflects a genuine engineering position rather than conservatism. The 180-degree crank's smooth delivery character suits the Ninja 650's role as an accessible and confidence-inspiring machine for developing riders, and the specific feel of the engine at the speeds and in the conditions that this rider most frequently uses is arguably better served by the 180-degree crank's smoothness than it would be by the 270-degree crank's more characterful delivery. This is a legitimate engineering argument rather than a position adopted by default, and Kawasaki maintains it consistently across a platform family that could have adopted the 270-degree configuration without significant technical difficulty if the company had believed the result would be better. The Kawasaki Z1000R Edition. A special specification version of the Z1000, produced to celebrate the machine's competitive heritage through its color scheme and specification details, reflects a pattern in Kawasaki's product strategy of periodically recognizing the historical context of its production machines through limited or special editions that communicate the brand's racing heritage. The customers who might not otherwise make the connection between their road machine and the championship-winning machines that share its engineering lineage. The Z1000R's lime green and ebony color scheme directly references the racing machines of the Z1000-era AMA Superbike years, and the specific combination of color and racing detail provides a visual connection to that history that the standard Z1000's more contemporary styling does not. These heritage editions serve both commercial and cultural functions commercially. They provide a premium variant that commands a higher price in a segment where standard model differentiation is limited. Culturally, they maintain the connection between current production and historical achievement that is part of what gives performance brand identities their depth and their durability. The Kawasaki ZX-10RR's homologation production run, which is limited in number to meet the World Superbike Regulations minimum production requirement without significant additional volume, produces machines that are among the most specifically engineered and most carefully manufactured in the company's production range. The limited volume of the ZX-10RR production run allows a level of quality control attention that higher volume production does not support, and the machines that result from this specific production context carry a quality of finish and a consistency of mechanical specification that differentiates them from the standard ZX-10R in ways that go beyond the specification differences listed in the technical documentation. The riders who purchase ZX-10RRs are typically riders who have specific and informed expectations about what they're buying, and the quality of the machine they receive reflects Kawasaki's understanding that the ZX-10RR customer is one of the most knowledgeable and most critical in the product range. Producing a machine that meets this customer's expectations correctly requires manufacturing precision and quality control attention that the ZX-10RR's limited production volume makes achievable in a way that mass production cannot guarantee. The Kawasaki Eliminator's revival in 2023 represented a specific reading of the current motorcycle market that not all manufacturers had reached simultaneously. The cruiser customer who is not specifically seeking American cultural mythology is underserved in the current market. And the combination of a modern parallel twin engine in a low, relaxed chassis at an accessible price serves this customer better than any existing alternative. Kawasaki's timing in introducing the Eliminator 500 in the year when Harley-Davidson was focused on higher-priced models, and when Japanese cruiser alternatives had been declining in number over the preceding decade, was a specific commercial positioning decision that reflected an accurate reading of the market gap. The Eliminator's mechanical quality, which benefits from the engineering development done across the Ninja 400 and 650 platform family, provided a foundation that the market positioning could build on, rather than a mechanical limitation that the positioning had to overcome. The combination of commercial timing and mechanical quality produced a launch reception that exceeded the expectations that a new model name in a challenging category might have generated, and the machine has sustained its initial success through the quality of the ownership experience it provides. The Kawasaki Ninja H2 SX's adaptive cruise control system, one of the first cruise control implementations on a production motorcycle to use radar sensing rather than wheel speed sensing to maintain distance from the vehicle ahead, represents a level of motorcycle technology development that has clear automotive precedent, but that required specific engineering work to adapt to the motorcycle's unique operating context. A motorcycle's relationship to the vehicle ahead is different from an automobile's in several important respects, including the range of distances and speeds at which the motorcycle operates. The machine's ability to maneuver within a lane to avoid obstacles that an automobile cannot pass without changing lanes, and the specific safety implications of the cruise control intervening at moments when the rider's attention is on other aspects of the riding situation. Kawasaki's implementation of the radar-based adaptive cruise control on the H2 SX SE Plus reflects engineering work that address these specific motorcycle context challenges rather than simply transplanting automotive cruise control technology to a two-wheeled platform. The result is a system that experienced touring riders describe as genuinely useful on motorway sections rather than merely impressive as a technology demonstration, which is the criterion by which any rider assistance system success should be measured. The Kawasaki Rivermark, the stylized emblem that appeared on early Kawasaki products before the current Kawasaki wordmark became the primary brand identifier, reflected the company's origin in the waterway transportation industry. The Rivermark was eventually replaced by the modern Kawasaki logotype as the company's motorcycle division became more commercially prominent and as the brand identity was rationalized across product categories. But the historical connection between the company's waterway roots and its motorcycle heritage is preserved in the Rivermark's existence. The progression from a company that built riverboats and barges to one that builds supercharged motorcycles is a journey of industrial diversification driven by manufacturing capability and engineering culture rather than by any obvious natural connection between the products. The engineering culture that can build a barge correctly is the same culture that can build a motorcycle correctly. And the specific character of what Kawasaki builds reflects the industrial seriousness that the parent company's origins in heavy industry established as the baseline for what acceptable engineering means. The Kawasaki Ninja ZX6R 636 and ZX6R 599, in the period when both were available simultaneously, created a specific and interesting competitive dynamic in showrooms where the two machines sat side by side with identical names and different displacements. The decision to differentiate the models primarily by displacement rather than by price tier or equipment level was a marketing choice that reflected the genuine mechanical character difference between the two engines rather than an artificial segmentation of the product range. The customer who chose the 636 was choosing a specific riding character, not simply more machine for more money. And the customer who chose the 599 was choosing a different specific riding character, not accepting a compromise in favor of a lower price. This genuine character difference between displacement variants of the same platform is rarer in motorcycle marketing than the industry's frequent use of displacement-based product segmentation might suggest. And the ZX6R family's ability to provide it reflected the genuine mechanical effect that the 37cc displacement difference produced in the engine's torque delivery and overall character. The Kawasaki Z900 ABS, the standard anti-lock brakes equipped version of the current middleweight naked machine, illustrates the degree to which ABS has become a standard expectation rather than a premium feature in the contemporary motorcycle market. The Z900's ABS system, like the traction control available across the range, is calibrated with the same attention to riding feel that the machine's other dynamic qualities receive, and a specific calibration philosophy, which prioritizes the preservation of front-wheel feedback through the braking transition rather than the early and conservative ABS intervention that prioritizes safety above all other considerations. Produces a braking experience that experienced riders find genuinely more satisfying than the ABS systems on competing machines whose calibration is less carefully considered. The difference between ABS that works correctly and ABS that works well is a calibration difference rather than a hardware difference, and the quality of Kawasaki's calibration across its current lineup is a consistent competitive differentiator in a market where ABS hardware has become commoditized. The Kawasaki Ninja 1000 SX's quickshifter, standard equipment on the current generation machine, allows clutchless upshifts and downshifts through a system that interrupts ignition briefly during upshifts and blips the throttle automatically during downshifts to match engine speed before the clutch is released. The quality of the blip during downshifts, which determines whether the downshift produces a smooth transition or a jolt, is one of the more technically demanding aspects of quickshifter calibration, and one where manufacturers differ significantly in their implementation quality. Kawasaki's quickshifter calibration on the Ninja 1000 SX has been consistently praised for the smoothness of its downshift execution, which reflects calibration work that optimized the throttle blip timing and magnitude for the specific engine's flywheel mass and throttle body response characteristics. This level of calibration specificity is the difference between a quickshifter that works and one that makes the riding experience noticeably better, and the Ninja 1000 SX's implementation is in the latter category by the assessment of riders who have experience with both. The night has covered a great distance tonight, and the Kawasaki story has traveled it all. From the W1's BSA-influenced beginnings to the H2R's supercharger spinning at 100,000 RPM, from the Z1's defining arrival in 1973 to Jonathan Ria's sixth consecutive world championship in 2020, the thread of engineering ambition runs through all of it, without interruption and without compromise. The machines are different in every dimension of their specification across the decade. The engineering ambition is the same in all of them. This is what it means for a company to have an identity rather than simply a product range, and it is what the green color communicates to everyone who sees it, whether they know the history explicitly or whether they simply recognize, as experienced riders recognize these things, that the machine in front of them was built by people who meant what they did. Subscribe to the Sleepy Rider channel. The road keeps going, and so does this channel. Come back whenever the night calls you back. Rest well. The Kawasaki will be there in the morning, green and ready, waiting for the first ride of the day. The Kawasaki Z650 and Ninja 650 platform, which has been produced in its current form since 2017, represents one of the most commercially successful mid-decade platform introductions that Kawasaki has made, generating a family of machines across naked, fared, adventure, and cruiser formats that have collectively sustained the company's presence in the global middleweight market with remarkable efficiency. The parallel twin engine at the platform's core, with its 180-degree crank and its specific calibration for the accessible performance brief that the platform serves, has proven adaptable enough to satisfy riders across the full range of aesthetic formats without requiring fundamental retuning for each application. The engine's character in the Ninja 650 is slightly different in feel from its character in the Eliminator 500, not because the mechanical specification differs significantly, but because the ergonomics and chassis geometry of each machine produce a different relationship between the rider and the engine's character. This ergonomic mediation of engine character is one of the more subtle aspects of motorcycle engineering, and the fact that the same engine feels appropriately characterful in both a sports fairing and a cruiser chassis reflects the calibration quality of both applications rather than the engine's indifference to context. The Kawasaki factory's continuous improvement program, which applies lean manufacturing principles derived partly from Toyota's production system and partly from the parent company's aerospace manufacturing experience, has produced consistent year-on-year improvements in manufacturing quality and production efficiency that are not individually dramatic, but that cumulatively have produced measurably better manufacturing quality in current Kawasaki motorcycles than in machines from the same factory a decade ago. The specific improvements are in dimensions including paint adhesion and finish consistency, component fit and alignment tolerances, assembly torque consistency, and the elimination of the minor manufacturing variations that produce the subtle differences between individual units of the same model that manufacturers who have not implemented systematic, continuous improvement programs routinely produce. The customer who buys a current Kawasaki production motorcycle is receiving a machine that is more consistently built than its predecessor from the same factory, and the improvement is the accumulated outcome of a program that has been running for years rather than the consequence of any single engineering breakthrough. The Kawasaki Z900 SE, the premium specification version of the middleweight naked machine, uses lens suspension front and rear in a machine whose electronic package includes cornering abs, traction control, and multiple power modes. The SE specification represents Kawasaki's recognition that the Z900's fundamental mechanical qualities are strong enough to justify a premium specification tier that provides equipment more commonly found on larger displacement or more expensive machines. The lens suspension on the Z900 SE provides a handling quality that the standard machine's KIB units, while genuinely good, do not match in the specific dimension of feedback quality through varied road surfaces at performance speeds. The difference between good suspension and excellent suspension in the riding experience context is a difference in the quality of the information the rider receives through the bars and foot pegs, rather than simply a difference in the harshness or compliance of the ride. And the lens unit's specific advantage is in this information quality dimension rather than in their overall compliance. Riders who can perceive this difference find it worth the premium the Z900 SE commands. Riders who cannot perceive it are well served by the standard Z900's KIB units. Both assessments are correct for the respective riders, and Kawasaki's decision to offer both specifications acknowledges this genuine diversity of rider perception. The Kawasaki Ninja H2 Carbon, in its most specific technical achievement, the weight reduction that the carbon fiber bodywork produces relative to the standard H2's plastic bodywork, amounts to approximately 2 kilograms. This is not a dramatic mass reduction by any measure, and in the context of a machine weighing approximately 238 kilograms, 2 kilograms is a change of less than 1% of total mass. The engineering and manufacturing investment required to produce the carbon fiber components that achieve this 2 kilogram saving is substantial. And the justification for making this investment when the mass reduction is so small relative to the total machine mass requires understanding what the 2 kilograms means at the performance levels the H2 Carbon operates at. At 200 horsepower, with a supercharged engine whose power delivery is immediate and forceful at any throttle opening. Every kilogram of mass reduction produces a measurable and perceptible improvement in acceleration, and the carbon-specific customers are the customers for whom this improvement is significant enough to justify the investment. The H2 Carbon's existence is not primarily a commercial decision. It is an engineering statement about what the company can produce when it pursues capability without the constraint of commercial necessity, and the technical quality of what it produces in these conditions reflects the depth of the engineering ambition that the entire H2 project represents. The specific relationship between Kawasaki's parallel twin-engine family and the adventure motorcycle market that the Versys 650 has served for more than 15 years reflects a development dialogue between the engine's calibration and the riding conditions that adventure motorcycles encounter in their typical use. The Versys 650's engine, calibrated for the combination of urban, motorway, and mountain road use that European adventure touring riding most commonly involves, has been progressively refined through successive model years to address specific feedback from owners about the engine's behavior in the specific conditions of their riding. The refinements have been incremental and have not changed the fundamental character of the engine, but their cumulative effect across 15 years of development has produced an engine that serves the Versys 650's brief more completely than the first generation did. This kind of patient, incremental development in response to real-world customer feedback, rather than in response to competitive specification pressure or regulatory requirement, produces motorcycles that serve their actual users in their actual conditions, with a precision that more dramatically revised machines sometimes lack. The facts have arrived steadily throughout the night, each one a piece of a longer story that the Kawasaki name carries across 5 decades and more of motorcycle production. The story is not finished because the machines are still being built and the engineering is still being done, and what comes next from the factory in Akashi will be informed by everything that came before it. The thread of engineering ambition that runs through the Z1 and the H2 will run through whatever follows them, because the culture that produces the thread has been consistent long enough to be structural rather than incidental. This is what endures in engineering, not the specific machines, which are replaced by better ones, but the culture that produces them, which is replaced by nothing because it is continuously renewed by the people who carry it forward. The green machines are the most visible expression of this culture. The culture itself is what makes the machines what they are. This channel exists to carry these stories to the people who find them worth knowing, at the hour when knowing something quietly is exactly what the night requires. Subscribe and keep the channel close. There are more stories ahead, more machines to understand, more facts worth holding in the specific way that facts about machines you love are worth holding. The engine stays warm here. The road is always open. Good night. The Kawasaki brand's presence in markets as different as Indonesia, Germany, Australia, and the United States reflects a product range whose breadth is genuinely matched to the diversity of what motorcycle riders in different contexts need from their machines. The small displacement commuters that serve Indonesian urban riders, the large displacement tours that serve German long-distance riders, the dirt bikes that serve Australian trail riders, and the supercharged performance machines that serve the specific performance enthusiasts who exist in every market, are all Kawasaki's in the full sense. Machines built with the engineering seriousness and the commitment to delivering the maximum appropriate capability that the brand's identity requires. The diversity of the product range is not a sign of confusion about what Kawasaki is. It is the expression of what Kawasaki is applied to the full diversity of what riders need.